Show.
It's uncut, it's unfiltered. This is the show of shows. This is the biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred.
Speaking his mind.
I've never had a problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way.
Exploring hot topics.
Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do.
And spreading the gospel of drag racing.
I respect the history. I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. This is the great American motorsport, drag racing.
The Wes Buck Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Hey gang, Wes Buck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, and hey, let's be honest, you know what time it is. It's time to talk drag racing. It is Wednesday, November 24th, 2021. It's almost time to gobble a little bit, right? Eat a little bit of turkey. I hope everybody's having a wonderful holiday weekend. A little bit of a change of scenery here, right? I'm up north away from our Texas studio, back in my old stomping grounds, the home of Drag Illustrated Magazine, Kirksville, Missouri. I hope you're all doing extremely well. And I tell you, we're going to talk a lot about this today. I think it'll be the theme of the show a little bit, and that's this Thanksgiving season, what we're thankful for, what we're feeling a helping of gratitude about when it comes to the sport of drag racing. But I got to be honest. When I think about what I'm perhaps most thankful for this holiday season, it's all of you guys. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube, following along on Facebook, you're listening to this show after the fact via iTunes or Spotify or wherever you like to consume your podcasts. I think what I'm most thankful for, especially here as we kind of head in toward the end of 2021, I won't say a trying year across the board. Yeah, a trying year, a trying couple of years, right? It's been difficult in so many different ways, right? Ways that we didn't even know were possible. And when I think of what I'm the most grateful for, it's each and every one of you that tune in every Wednesday, join us around Drag Racing's water cooler as we break down happenings in the sport, talk about this stuff. And I want to say happy Thanksgiving to all of y'all and tell you how much we appreciate your participation. I rant about this every week, but it's important, man. Your involvement, your engagement, the communication, letting us know where you're watching from, sharing your thoughts and feelings, it makes all the difference in the world. We talk about this a lot internally, is there's a lot to learn from the comments section of the Wes Buck Show. If you tune into this thing, you're going to learn something. You're going to hear something, some really solid input or insight on the sport of drag racing. And I just hope all of you know how much we appreciate you. So thank you for being a part of this every Wednesday. It's been a hell of a ride here in 2021. I think I'll have to ask Mike and JT for the specifics, but I believe we're encroaching on 20 straight Wednesdays that we've connected with you guys, and we believe it's making a difference, not only in the sport of drag racing, because we're really proud of the work we're doing here. We believe that this platform genuinely has to exist. These conversations have to be had out in the open, and we're so gracious and so thankful for you guys joining us every Wednesday. I would encourage you, please click like, click share, click subscribe, join the family, join the movement, and tell someone about the show. Call someone, text them a link, let someone know what's happening here every Wednesday. Your contribution and your willingness to help us spread the gospel of drag racing, it pays dividends, guys. So let us know where you're tuning in from today. I'd love to know. We got Tom Lukens in South Carolina. We got let me see here. I'm Chuck Williams checking in from Texas. Man, it makes all the difference in the world. So comment, let us know where you're watching from, and if there's something you'd like for us to cover sometime throughout the day here, throw it into the comments, man. You'd be surprised. You may ask us a question that we'll dive right into answering. So we, as you've likely guessed, we got a massive show for you today. I'm super excited about this. About 3:00 Central Standard Time, we will be joined by PDRA Pro Nitrous superstar, heavy hitter, Jay Cox, driver of the Pumpkin 69 Camaro, Rick Jones race cars built hot rod that has been a feared contender on that East Coast-based series that is the Professional Drag Racing Association. We'll hear a little bit about him because I saw his name on an entry list for what I think may live up to the definition that I believe we've created here on the Wes Buck Show for a barn burner of a drag race, the fast approaching 50th annual Snowbird Nationals down at Bradenton Motorsports Park. We will be hearing from the promoter of that event and the owner of that facility about 3:30. That is the one and only Victor Alvarez. Should be a fantastic show. Again, let us know where you're watching from. Let us know what you want to talk about. If you got a question, you got a comment, you've got a concern. I had a really high-ranking guy earlier this week, a high-ranking guy in our industry reach out to me and sent me a message of thanks, and it really warmed my heart. He goes, watching your show every Wednesday, the new show on Monday night. If you guys haven't checked it out, the Drag Illustrated Ride Along, every Monday night we tune in, check out Discovery Channel's No Prep King Season 4. It's a fun deal. He said to me, he goes, man, I can kind of keep tuned in to the sport of drag racing just by watching the show. He goes, like, I don't have to make a bunch of phone calls. I don't have to scour a bunch of different websites or magazines or whatever. I can pretty much feel plugged in just by following along with you guys every week. So I thought, you know what, by God, we're doing exactly what we set out to do. Let's go ahead and get right into this deal. Let's JT, Mike Carpenter, what's going on, guys? Are you ready for the holiday?
You know it, man. I'm kind of left out. I got a little FOMO. I'm not in Kirksville with you guys.
I know. It's so it's
first time anybody ever said that.
No, it's not, man. You hate on Kirksville so bad. It's fun up here.
Hey, thank you, Jerry Lester. No, dude, it is kind of weird to be here. And it was like, we thought about trying to do it like in the same room or whatever, but I thought, you know what, I got to be in my old office. I got to be where this whole deal started, which 234 episodes strong here today, guys.
Yeah. If you go back and watch the first episodes, it's pretty comical.
It's pretty hilarious, man. But I think the energy, honestly, is the same today as it was then. Like, we were just as fired up at the opportunity to talk to racers back then, or at that time, we just rambled. That was in the we were the first drag racing like outlet or anybody in our industry to like go live on Facebook.
You had people called in and you just like had your cell phone up against
I had my phone
or something. Yeah. I mean,
we had Bluetooth speakers to it. And
we tried everything.
Innovation minus Steve Jobs move over.
Dude, we had an iPhone duct taped to a shoebox, and that we felt like we were big time in it, man. But that thing, I don't know. I really have a hard time wrapping my head around it, because for as simple and lo-fi as it was, it really seemed like a game changer, like a real difference maker, not only for our business at Drag Illustrated, but just the sport. Like we saw a lot more like ongoing conversations happening. It kind of created a newfound interest in being willing to say your piece, kind of stick your neck out there, which is something we've been doing on the pages of the magazine since the onset.
Right.
But that this microwave society that we kind of live in, with everybody wanting, immediate gratification, instant gratification, it's been kind of fun to see, like, people, you say something and you're going to get an immediate reaction, right? Like positive, negative, somewhere in between. It's a really cool medium, and I'm actually genuinely thankful for it, because I remember for the longest time, like 100% of our focus here was on the content that we were putting on the printed pages of that magazine. And while that will always, and I believe forever, remain like our flagship offering, the magazine is the difference maker. Having this show serve as a little bit of like the tip of the spear or the first foot through the door has made a world of difference for our business. It's kind of crazy. Do you guys ever, like, it feels like we're seeing more people go live. Like, I don't know if you've noticed, Stevie Jackson has gone live every day this week. How about, I saw Steve Johnson in the build-up NHRA Pro Stock Motorcycle Racer Championship contender, Steve Johnson. He went live like 3 or 4 days before Pomona. I had never seen him do that before, or not often, at least. Do you think, I know it would seem crazy because this technology has existed for 5 or 6 years, but do you think we're going to see a lot more of that this off season? People finally kind of getting on board. And when I say people, I mean high level professional drag racers.
I think they have to, they're getting left behind. There's so many people out there doing it right and putting themselves out there that if they're not doing it, I think that even their sponsors are going to ask them, why aren't you doing this? I mean,
it's kind of
got this guy over here doing it and you're not doing it. It's kind of like, hey man, we're giving you money to put yourself out there, and these guys are doing it over here. You better do it too.
Seems like we see it more. We see it more from a Stevie Jackson, radial racers, the no prep kings people, the NHRA pros. We rarely see it. I think it's because they're used to being handled or managed. It's like maybe only if Elon's here and he says I can go live, we can go live with Elon or whatever. So there's more of that. But I in this day of age, or this day and age, I think we've got to see more direct connection between the drivers. So it's good to see that. I think we will see more of that. And I think as these guys, we've talked about the super team kind of breaking up, I think for at least for this coming season, we'll see more of these guys like Caps maybe or whatever representing themselves on a level that they haven't in the past. And maybe they're eager to do that. We'll see.
Did you see this comment here? I love this. Ryan Ackerman saying Stevie getting some schooling from Cleat. Mm-hmm. I got to be honest. I found that very telling, right?
Yeah, Cletus is
Fast Jackson,
another one. Yeah, I forgot.
And Lyle Barnett roll down to the 2.4 hours of Le Mullet this past weekend at the Freedom Factory, the facility that Cletus McFarland, Garrett Mitchell, famed YouTuber, YouTube personality.
DI
they go down star. There for DI cover star.
Starts
they
with
go
that,
down.
And then the rest of it comes out.
Start with that, man. You roll down. They roll down to Bradenton for this event, right? And they're down there surrounded by swarms of automotive content creators, right? I mean, and kind of all over the board. I mean, Ken Block and what was it? Kyle Busch was down there. You got Vaughn Gettin. I don't know if Ken Block was there.
It was Kurt Busch.
Kurt Busch and Vaughn Gettin Jr.
Vaughn Gettin ended up winning.
A slew, the Boosted Boys, some Diesel people, all sorts of people from the automotive YouTube space. And I think it's interesting because I venture to say we're going to see more content from Lyle Barnett and Stevie Fast Jackson than ever before. Because I'd say they went down there and saw, I think they went down there and saw how it's done. Like people making no bones about the fact that they have an audience to serve. The same way they have sponsors to serve and a championship to compete for, they have an audience, a fan following that they owe. You know what I mean? That they basically owe content to.
And they can literally see it in front of them. Like, hey, this is Cletus's. And he kind of built it off YouTube. I mean,
this dude owns his own track.
You know,
he's
like
putting on his own events.
Oh, so that shit works, huh? You know,
that stuff is as important as decals on a car and on-track performance. I think
maybe
if I'm
more
a sponsor
anymore
in 2021, I'm coming at it from the other direction. I'm asking, what's your following like? How often are you on social media? How often do you engage these people?
Look what all Clay's done.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. A lot of comments about Clay right now. Yeah, some people found us because of Clay.
Right.
Hey, between Clay and Lyle, man, we got to get these guys on payroll, right?
That ain't no joke, man. I was screaming it early on because I was like, to be honest, I was kind of pissed off because I go, if we can do this, any of y'all can. And to think about it, I mean, just the cars that qualify, right, at an NHRA national event in pro classes, I mean, you got 16 funny cars, you got 16 top fuel cars. I mean, most of the time, 16 pro stock bikes or whatever. I mean, my point is there's 80 to maybe 100 teams that should be going live, that should be creating content. And how many people have we named? Like 3?
Yeah.
Stevie.
Yeah, Alex does.
Clay,
Alex does a lot.
Alex Laughlin does a great job.
Yeah,
I mean,
Alex is one.
I don't.
There's a lot of ways.
Content.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to do this stuff. And I see some comments about, well, NHRA doesn't want that. Fox doesn't want that. There's all these restrictions. You do have to stay between more lines when you're doing it on the NHRA side, but there's still a big
room for
plenty of opportunity.
Yeah.
The only thing I've heard about NHRA is they don't want you, or Fox, they just don't want you showing on-track.
Yeah, on-track footage.
And we already see that.
NPK is the same way. In PK, they want you to do as much as you can, but no on-track stuff. So it's kind of the same.
You know, like when Wes started doing the selfie interviews.
Yeah.
You know, it's behind the scenes. That's something that they could all do. You know, but that's something that everybody fed into too. They were like, oh my God, this is awesome. You remember that? I mean, we got
that was like wildfire
from that because
do you remember?
Like, holy cow, this is awesome! Getting to see behind the scenes and
the more polished those videos got, the worse they perform.
Right.
Probably,
which is very interesting and I think that's something to learn from is because it's like, and how about this comment? I found you guys through the Big Daddy, Don Garlitz. He's talking about that kind of makes me the old schooler, but that actually makes me super proud, man.
Yeah, that's
Thank
awesome.
you very much. But it's I struggle a little bit with the fact that it seems like there's a push towards super polished videos. You know what I mean? Like that's great. And the car doing a slow-mo burnout, and that's cool. That content has a place. I'm not saying it's not either or.
You got to mix it up.
Really, you got to
want to see what you're doing. Show us the struggle, man. I say
drop
this all
the camera.
time.
You know,
if it's late at night and you're working on the car, or you're on like day 3 of a trip across the country to get from Tampa to Seattle or something. I mean, show us what's going on. Show us some of the rough stuff that makes it more relatable, because there's a lot of people out there fighting that battle.
I had a guy, high level racer, not super, hadn't like necessarily stacked up wins yet, kind of early in his career, to be honest. But a big time player. I don't want to name names. I know it's 2021. We're supposed to provide receipts, but small community out here, folks. It's a reminder. This is a small community, and it's important to maintain, I think, good relations with folks. But great guy that I respect. He came to me, and I was kind of telling him, like, man, you guys have such a big operation and so many moving parts. I think there's some great stories in there. You got to tell me some of that stuff. And he goes, man, I really want to wait until we're like winning races and setting records and championships. And I go, whoa, man, the stories aren't going to be near as relatable, near as interesting when everything's working perfectly. I would argue that the stories are going to be more relatable and more enjoyable and more impactful for you right now from every angle, whether it's drawing sponsors, growing your fan base, or something else. That story of struggle, that people relate to that, man. And don't wait till it's all roses.
And to me, to get to all roses, you got to have a significant sponsor to be out there winning races, setting records. So it's like putting the cart before the horse. How are you going to get that sponsor? You got to build that following first. So to me, it's the other way around. You got to start building that following. Swanstrom is a great example of this. He's getting so much notoriety. He's getting some sponsors, which he tells them, hey, there's going to be some crazy shit on my deal. I'm going to cuss or whatever. And he's able to say that and prove that, hey, this works. I'm rough around the edges, or I appeal to a non-traditional audience, but it works. Are you on board or are you not? And I think that's I think it's an interesting thing. And to me, it's the way we have to do it in 2021. But
it's an important thing that's being largely slept on. And we know I think we should just spend a minute. I've got some topics to delve into here, but I do think it's important to remind everybody we're going into a time of year where you have no excuse, to be honest. And
it's networking season. This is what we were getting into. This may be where you're going, Wes. Maybe I'm taking over.
No, you're not. But I mean, it is networking.
It's all about networking. And is there a better place to network than PRI? Probably not. No. Unless you're talking about the Drag Illustrated After Hours Party presented by or powered by Titan Racing Engines. That's probably the best place to network, wouldn't you guys say?
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about it.
And if you're on social, that's probably a cool place to post some stuff from social media or on social media too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
To flex.
Reminder to everybody out there, DI After Hours powered by Titan Racing Engines coming up Thursday, December 9th at NV Nightclub in downtown Indianapolis. And I'm telling you right now, we are going to burn that poor city to the ground. I would hate to call Indy my home on Friday, because who knows what will be left of that joint. I say this all in jest, but we're genuinely excited. Brand new venue, brand new club partner. We're so excited. This thing has grown year after year after year. There's no doubt it will grow again in 2021. We couldn't be more excited nor more appreciative of the folks at Titan Racing Engines for joining us in this deal. We're going to have a big time. JT, real quick, briefly, let's just talk about how many VIP tables are left. We literally had a waiting list that we've maintained for 4, 5, 6 years now.
Yeah, long time. And
long time. And they were basically sold out, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's only a couple left, I believe. And the link will go live probably after the show, I'd say. So the link will go live and you'll be able to purchase your tickets to the party online. And then if there is a table or two left, that'd be a good time to grab it, because they're going to get taken up. I mean, it was like half a day.
Name drop some people.
Just texting them out, Dean
Marinas, Dwayne Mills, Mark Caruso, Tommy Franklin,
Swanstrom Mills,
Justin Swanstrom, Alex Laughlin, Speed Society, Daddy Dave. The list goes on. We've been getting call after call after call, text after text after text, and we're just genuinely gracious
and we're doing
for
it.
that.
We're doing it different this year too. JT, give us the rundown on how we're doing access to the party, tickets. We're calling them tickets. It's a cover charge to get in. So how does it work online, and how does it work?
You'll be able to go online to MV Nightclub and get your general admission ticket or whatever, and then when you show up at the door, you'll have your ticket just digitally, or or however they serve them to you,
or on your phone, whatever.
Yep, and it'll speed up the line getting in. We shouldn't be near the wait times we've had in the past. Everything's going to be streamlined, so it's going to be really nice. Jason Jenkins, who owns this bar, also owns Tiki Bob's and Pavilion. This guy, he hosts big events every weekend. Like he's hosting Little John the weekend before us. So this isn't his first rodeo.
Lil John.
My bad.
Just to clear that up for you, buddy. Lil John. No, it's exciting, man, and I got to tell you, this is a great opportunity to talk about.
If you haven't, also go online. Search Envy Nightclub in Indianapolis. Check out some photos from this place and check it out.
There's a virtual tour.
This place is bougie.
And then we're gonna have our lanyards at the booth Thursday morning, and that'll gain you access to the club in 1 hour early. So come by,
grab your early access pass.
Yep.
And that's going to be kind of your networking hour. Early at the show, if you've got somebody you'd like to buy a drink and throw your pitch at them,
dine them a little bit,
or you're trying to get have a little extra conversation after the show. That's your networking hour right there, and then we'll kind of roll into the.
I think JT is going to be walking around with one of those things like the Top Fuel crew chiefs have, with a dial on it, with a huge antenna, and just like I told him, let's start at like a 7, and then every hour just ratchet it up a little bit.
But this is something we all missed, right? I mean, to me, we were talking about what are we thankful for, or you open the show, and to me, PRI, I mean, when you have it every year, it's kind of a grind. We're doing this party. We're doing so many different things during the show that last year kind of felt like, okay, a year off, man, we'll catch our breath. But here we are a year after that, and I miss it. I miss it like hell. I'm looking forward to getting back there.
Racers will tell you that they do more networking at this party than they do at the show. I mean, we've had people tell us that a lot. So
the show and the party, we're looking forward to both of them. And we've got a couple. We've got some engagements, Wes, during the show.
I know, it's cool, man. It's kind of a little bit, what's the word? It's surreal, I think is the word. We had a couple of our sponsors reach out to us this week. Redline Oils reached out, a long time, or a new supporter of the show, brand new sponsorship, really, really cool, multifaceted deal that spans the Wes Buck Show to Drag Illustrated Magazine to dragillustrated.com to our ever-growing email news list, which is kind of anchored by our crew chief daily. If you haven't signed up for that, I encourage you to do so. I believe there's a dialogue box somewhere on dragillustrated.com where you can do that. 3 to 5 times a week, you get an email in your inbox that'll kind of give you the lowdown, NHRA news, PDRA news, everything that's going on in our sport, and it's massively growing. And Redline basically reached out and said, hey, we're having this racer here and that racer there. We want the cast of the Wes Buck Show to come sign autographs and take pictures in our booth. So 3 p.m. Friday afternoon, we'll be in the Redline Oils booth. We'll have a date and time for our one of our other appearances at Stroud Safety's booth. Hung up with Tommy Cunningham and the team this morning at Stroud. Same deal. They want us to be in the booth, shaking hands and kissing babies, which is a cool thing, man. I don't know. Cool. Do you guys get like geeked out? I mean, that's pretty surreal, right?
Yeah. Earlier you said, hey man, we've got our first appearance at the show. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, who's coming, or who are we going to have in the booth? No, we're going to someone else's booth. So that's actually pretty cool. Kind of a moment for us.
I feel like it's a moment, man. But you know what? There's two things. First and foremost, it just reiterates what we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes, man, that you have to put yourself out there. I saw someone in the group here basically, or in the comments, say that repeat one of my quotes, which isn't my quote. It's a quote from Guy Kawasaki, but he says,
earlier.
if you don't toot your own horn, you can't complain when there's no music.
Mhm.
And I think that it's hard for drag racers, which I believe to be the salt of the earth, like the greatest people, the greatest community. I thank my lucky stars every day that this is the group of people that I get to work with. These are the kind of people that I get to work with every day, spend my weekends with. But the kind of flip side to that coin is they're humble to a fault almost, right? You've heard the phrase loyal to a fault, but the community, the drag racing community in many ways, I believe, is humble to a fault. We're so afraid to come off as a braggadocious jerk or an arrogant prick. We've all heard our dads or somebody in our racing circle say that. Oh, that guy, all he does is run his mouth and talk about what he does. I hate to say it, man. Those are the guys that end up with sponsors.
Yeah.
I believe I heard Antron Brown, NHRA Top Fuel ace Antron Brown. He was on a panel a few weeks ago, and I can't remember exactly what the event was or who put it on, but I got a link sent to me. And very early on in the conversation about sponsorship and team, is that SEMA sponsorship and team ownership? Antron pointed to the fact that the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Mhm.
Right. And I know that is oftentimes seen as like a negative thing. Like you don't want to be the squeaky wheel, and you don't. I think
It's
we
almost
all
like
know
ingrained
there's a
in the
fine
culture
line.
of drag
It is
racing
ingrained
to
in the
not
culture.
be the squeaky wheel. It's like all the people,
You don't
all
wanna
the
be
humble
that
to
guy.
a fault guys ended up in drag racing or something.
It's very odd to me.
Yeah, it is.
It's not though. It's not. What it is it really speaks to the group of people, the caliber of people that exist here. But I do think it's part of the reason that our sport lags behind other motorsports. I mean, if you look, this is going to probably be a little bit an inflammatory comment, but you look at like your local sport, wherever you live in our country, I venture to say your local dirt track racers are very well known. Right. The guy that's got the local guy that's got a late model stock car, the local guy that's got a 360 sprint car. Those guys, they've got Casey's General Store or your local gas station on the side of their trailer, and everybody in town knows them. And every time they barrel roll through the grandstands or whatever at their local track, it's on the front page of the paper. That's because I think for whatever reason, I don't totally know what it is. And I don't want to just say that it's dirt track racers are a little full of themselves and drag racers are super humble, but maybe that's it. Maybe that's what it is. But I think that's part of the reason drag racing has kind of lagged behind almost every other form of motorsports, because we're so focused on shaving a 100th of a second off of our elapsed time that we're not sending out a press release. We're not reaching out to the local media. Look at what Tom and Ryan Martino have accomplished. NHRA, PDRA, top sportsmen, top dragster standouts, champions. These guys have like the city named after them in Ohio, outside of Cleveland. They've got, we have an article.
We have an article coming out in the magazine about all the stuff they do off the track, not just the stuff on the track, but off the track, and how their sponsors appreciate the stuff they do.
Lauren at Sonax, I hope she's listening. Longtime supporter of us at Drag Illustrated. She actually told us, like, we can't hardly say thank you enough. We can't hardly do enough for Tom and Ryan Martino for what they do for us.
Yeah, and off the track.
What a lesson. You got a couple of 3 drag racing stooges, guys that just love to talk about this stuff. You know what I mean? We're getting scheduled, booked in appearances at the trade show, at the PRI show. You got a top dragster racer. I didn't say top fuel racer. I said top dragster racer having rave reviews from a company that supports him and having city streets named after them and days on the calendar named after them.
Remember when we first kind of like knew about them, or they were on our map, and me and Wes would look at each other in the office like, now what is exactly that they do? Because like I think I just saw him backstage with Snoop Dogg 2 weeks ago, and then this week he's over here with Ted Nugent up on stage. You're like, what are these guys doing?
Yeah, they're the mayors of what's the town? I'm blanking.
I can't think of what it is.
It's Youngstown, right?
Youngstown.
I'll call them the mayors of Youngstown.
They are, man.
And
I think there's a lesson. I think there's a lesson to be learned. I remember growing up, and I don't want to like piss my dad off because he might be watching today, but I remember there was a couple local drag racers that we knew in my hometown, and I'm hometown, so I might have to fight somebody. Yeah. But I remember my dad just hated these guys. And it was because everybody in town knew they were drag racers, and everybody in town thought they were like John Force. And my dad would always be so pissed because, and I think I wrote a little part about this in my book that I wrote on race promotion. I think there's a chapter in there where I talk about my dad being so bent about these local racers that got way more shine than he did. And to prove the point of many of the people listening along or watching along in the comments here, his car was faster. And he thought, my car, I got the fastest car ain't nobody around here got a door car faster than us within 200 miles, blah, 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 race anybody, anywhere, but they were better promoters. They were better self-promoters than my dad. And it stinks because my dad's
both.
like, it takes both, man. It really does. My dad's a legendary storyteller. He really is. That's where I inherited the gift of gab or whatever, but he never really wanted to lean on it in a public forum. He didn't want to be labeled that blowhard, or he didn't want to be that guy that was always talking about himself.
It's super common. And I also think that dirt track racing, all that stuff, you said it in your example, when he goes out and barrel rolls that thing Saturday night, that's part of it too. Drag racers, thank goodness, don't crash a whole lot. And when they do, it's hopefully not barrel rolling and stuff. It's much more, you're much more likely to take that thing home in one piece, shiny side up. And I hate to say it, but that limits some of the reach of it. People see the crazy stuff. They see the crashes. All the people that pack your local, there's a place around here around home called Bowman Gray Stadium is what it's called.
I watched the reality show on that place.
Yeah, it's this tiny little track.
Awesome reality show.
It packs out, and people are just there to see
fights,
the circus and fights, and the crazy people that are there, and the craziness on the track.
I want to go to that.
Yeah,
I'm coming. So we're going to that if I can.
That's some of it too. Bowman
Gray.
BOWMAN Gray.
You got to watch the you got to watch the reality show on this. It's well done.
Ask Matt Smith, Matt and Angie go there like every weekend that they're home.
Really?
Yeah. Brian McCaddy made a great comment. No one likes being referred to as legends in their own mind, and I really think that permeates our entire community, that mindset. And I get it. Nobody wants to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy. Nobody wants to be that guy. And I think there's a fine line. I think there's a line between being, there's a line in my book that I wrote, and it talks about how people confuse being humble, humility, and being humble, right? It's being humble is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. It's opening a door for a woman. It's pulling over on the side of the road to change a flat tire. It's putting people in front of you, your needs behind the needs of others. It's why people like Simon Sinek write books called Leaders Eat Last. That's being humble. That's exercising humility. It's not never talking about it yourself. It's not saying never being proud of what you've accomplished, right? It's not that at all. It's totally different. So if you've won a world championship or you set the track record at your local 8th mile, it's not a crime to let people know about that. It's not a crime to be proud of it and tell people and be outward with those accomplishments. And I'll tell you, this is a great opportunity. I mean, when's the last time you've sent a message to press@dragillustrated.com? When's the last time you've sent an email message to press@competitionplus.com? When's the last time you've sent an email to press@dragzine.com or press@dragchamp.com, right? There's all these websites. There's all these media outlets that exist. I mean, when's the last time you've told somebody how your season looked? It's that time of year. We're putting together our trending issue. We're getting ready to launch the first ever Racer of the Year issue of Drag Illustrated. Now's the time to be telling people in the media, telling the world, telling your sponsors, new current potential sponsors, what you're accomplishing, what happened this year. I hope that we close this show this afternoon with a whole bunch of messages in our inbox, because we want to know if you had the best season of your career, if you did something special, let us know, because we likely don't, guys. We pride ourselves in knowing what's going on in the sport of drag racing, but we can't be everywhere every weekend. So let us know what you're up to. And I tell you what, let's dive into some rock and roll topics here real quick, guys. We'll blow through these. We didn't get to talk about this last year, and last Wednesday. So I want to touch on it now. Dallas Glenn announced the NHRA Rookie of the Year. He earned that award by way of an incredible rookie season in Pro Stock. He had a fierce battle going head to head with newfound NHRA Top Fuel team owner and driver Josh Hart. Mike, JT, I don't know about you guys, but I feel this was a much deserved award. Had Dallas Glenn not won this award, I think I would have had to march on the Capitol. Mike, I mean, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And he was my vote. The guy just he jumped right in there. We've talked to a lot of guys. We talked to Dallas himself. We talked to Greg. They talked about how being around the sport and being so involved in it translated directly into his success right away, and being a part of a championship team. Still, Pro Stock is as tough of a competition as you can get in drag racing, especially on the driver. And for this guy in his first year of driving, I've never seen someone have more O and O something lights than this guy.
That's crazy. Right?
He's doing something in there. I think that is that he's figured out, or that we're going to see more of this. He's bringing the competition up to his level to compete with him. I mean, how I would love to see a breakdown of the reaction times in Pro Stock this year compared to years past. It almost felt like if you didn't have a O light, especially against him, you were leaving second.
I kept saying he was guessing, but I mean, or wasn't guessing, but
no, I don't think
I just think he's so close to going red that could have very easily went red.
Yeah, and I just think he's got his program.
He's got
it.
Yeah, I mean,
whatever
he's got it down.
Yeah,
ooh, that's crazy,
so,
right?
He probably does his own clutch, right? Does his own mechanical work on that end. Probably did it for years for Jason Line or Greg Anderson. Some of that stuff translates over. So it's to me, he kind of raised the bar, especially for a rookie in Pro Stock.
I think he made
the bar
point,
has been raised so high in driving, like across the board. And I don't know what the hell has happened, but I mean, just Pro Mod, Pro Stock, but it continues to other categories. Top Fuel, I mean, look at what Mike Salinas did late in 2021, massively improving his reaction times. There was all this hubbub about Brittany Force's struggle with her reaction times, and it's not like she was way out in left field. She was just off the pace, but the pace had elevated, right?
I've never
the standard
heard
had
anyone
raised.
Talk about reaction times in fuel classes. I mean, it's just not even it's never even really been a thing. We've had Lyle Barnett on here a couple times. He's talked about how he shims his trans brake button. There's just people doing a lot of stuff. And again, we continue to move forward. Technology moves forward. Competition moves forward. And you've got to find every little bit. And I think the Dallas Glenn did that all year.
And if they didn't give it to him, it would have basically said that the NHRA didn't care about Pro Stock, right? I mean, you kind of
that's my take.
That's not to discredit anybody else. I mean, Josh Hart had a great rookie season.
He did so good, though.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if he wouldn't have got it, it'd be like a big smack in the face, basically.
I think it would have been. I mean, we had even competitors pointing, like Richard Freeman right here on this show pointed at Dallas and said, man, like, if that kid's ever looking for a job driving a race car, we're hiring. That's the kind of impact Dallas Glenn made on our sport this year, racing for KB Racing. As we talked, he was so good that his sponsors continued to extend their involvement. It started at like 3, 4, maybe
really
5
cool
races. Then it becomes 8. Then it becomes 10. Then it becomes, you know what? We're in contention for a championship. And I say all this, but I do not want to discredit what Josh Hart accomplished his first year in NHRA Top Fuel. Came out, wins the first race he enters. He's a team owner and driver. He's done a great job. I will say, I mean, there was some off-track stuff that I think possibly cost him a little bit this year, maybe. A scuffle in the pits in Dallas. I don't think that earned them any points, unfortunately. But what I really point to on this whole deal is people really recognizing how hard it is to be successful in Pro Stock. I mean, we see young folks dive into Top Fuel and have relative success. We see young folks that don't have a tremendous amount of driving background have some sort of quick success. You don't see that at all in Pro Stock. Matter of fact, most of the drivers that aren't committed to running the full pole have next to zero success because those cars are so difficult. Details infinitely challenging cars to drive. And I really point to that as being the difference maker. And I tip my cap to the NHRA guys, because had this not had happened, would it have been the end of the world? No. I want to point to a couple things. Josh Hart did an incredible job campaigning for Rookie of the Year honors. I think that that's something the whole sport, NHRA, should be proud of, how much this honor means.
Yeah, I've never seen more.
I've never seen anything like
by
it.
Dallas, by
everyone
by
that
Josh
was in
Hart.
contention.
Yeah, we got more than one reminder or stat sheet from each of these people that were in contention. So good job. Again, that competition is even stiffer now. You know, it used to just kind of be a shoe in or I'm not. So good now point. It's like everything is competitive. And that's actually something I like to see, though, is these teams taking it seriously, contracting someone like an Elon Werner to do that on their behalf. These things are important, and I like to see more time and resources being put into that.
I think it really helps. They recognize that there's value there where, hey, it's going to be not easier, but it's going to add some value to our resume or to our laundry list of accomplished when we approach our next sponsor. Hey, 2021 NHRA Rookie of the Year. That's a big deal. And I really hope to see the NHRA continue to promote that honor. For me, I almost feel like it'd be cool to see the NHRA put Dallas Glenn on some sort of like PR tour. I mean, he should be getting booked on our show. He should be trying to get booked on any other shows that exist. He should be on the cover of National Dragster. I mean, they should be leaning on us to put him on the cover of Drag Illustrated.
It's on them individually, though, and we know that.
It is
what we talk about all the time. It's on them individually. Drag racing is much more of a individualistic deal. Like the NHRA is not going to do that. So they gave you the award. Now they're like, all right, do what you can with this, but do what you can. He has Rad Torque. We talked about his sponsor coming on a limited basis at the start of the year, then extending again. I think it was a multi-stage deal, and then back again next year. They also just inked a 5-year deal for the title right sponsorship for the Edmonton NHRA track. Shout out to Vernon Christie for that reminder. I think I just saw that press release today.
What do you make of, speaking of drag strips, changing gears here, New England Dragway's future apparently in jeopardy? This has been talked about a lot this week. Apparently there has been an offer made to the group that owns New England Dragway to develop it as not commercial, I believe, probably residential, a neighborhood,
condominiums or something like that, right?
Likely.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing, man. And this scares me. Like around here, it's just like they can't build enough houses. I mean, everywhere, all farmland's being cleared out to build these huge housing developments. And there's drag strips are built kind of off the beaten path where they're far enough away out in a field and former farmland or something, so that there's no noise concerns or whatever. But as these cities grow, as populations grow and they start moving out, and people, I read this huge thing about how COVID accelerated the move from cities to suburbs as people realize they can work from home, or they can do like a mixed schedule. Even people are leaving the expensive cities and moving and building houses out in the suburbs. As that happens, especially in places in the Northeast, like Englishtown, New Jersey, and like Epping, New Hampshire, this is going to happen more often.
Georgia.
Yep.
And Georgia. The suburb prices are booming. Yep. I mean, just crazy.
So this is going to be a thing. Yeah. These drag strips, the owners of them are going to go, hey, I can keep this thing going or sell it for right now.
Yeah. And in many cases, probably create generational wealth. Right. That's the tough part about it, is that a lot of these people are going to be vilified, but almost anyone in their shoes would make the exact same decision. So it's tough, because it's hard for us to get on here and grandstand and like condemn anyone for those type of things, because, hey, who can argue with putting food on your table, or maybe creating not only a security for yourself and your immediate family, but like generations after yours.
Well, to me too, when you're buying a drag strip, you're buying a large piece of property, and property by and large appreciates over time. And to me, most people that are smart business people that are buying a drag strip go, okay, I'm going to run this thing for 20 years, but then hopefully the property's gotten to the point where it's so valuable, I'll sell it. And that's probably the situation we're looking at in a lot of these deals. So you got to keep all that in mind. I hate it, but you do see new drag strips being built sometimes to replace these old ones. Not very often, but we have seen a few new drag strips being built.
One thing that I like about this is it's kind of one of those moments where something negative creates some positivity. And it almost feels like we need these moments when tracks are announced as closing or announced as going up for sale. I hope, hey, let's vote with our wallet. There's perhaps nothing we can do would be more impactful than supporting these places, showing up to their events, paying to park, buying a ticket. We all have a hand in this. Can we change the future? Can we change what's meant to be? Absolutely not. But man, we could probably help some of these track owners make it worth their while to keep a drag strip and not a community center or a YMCA or a new neighborhood. We can probably slow that move down if we're supporting these tracks. So there's a little bit of an onus on all of us to make sure we're doing our part to support your local drag strip. We talk about this a lot, but it's true. So many drag racers will be can't wait to tell you that they make a bad spectator. Well, that's part of this problem is you can't always race your car every single weekend, but most drag strips are open every single weekend of warm weather. So I encourage you, man, if you're not racing this weekend or they're not fielding your class, send the kids, take the kids, go out and hang out, watch a streetcar race, go out to a Midnight Madness, bring a cooler, what have you. If there's a nostalgia weekend and you don't have a nostalgia car, go buy a ticket, go support it. I understand you can't live at the drag strip. Don't expect that of anyone, but man, we can do our part to slow this thing down that is an inevitable part of our future. As land, like you guys said, they don't make any more of it. It's only going to get more valuable. And these tracks aren't, golly, a lot of them are being quickly encroached on by neighborhoods and just civilization, if you will. So I think this is going to be something we contend with for a long time, but I hope we can use this little blip of negativity or this little problematic situation to kind of rally everybody, because that's a real thing. You got to support your local drag strip. I remember 3 weeks ago, not even 2 weeks ago, heading out to Extreme Raceway Park for the season-ending Pro Mod race that Clyde Scott puts on. Clyde, Galen Smith. I mean, you saw a lot of characters in the old kind of heavyweights of the outlaw Pro Mod movement. Yeah. And I rolled up and I thought, man, I should have called Clyde and told him I was coming. And then I thought, you know what? I'll just buy a ticket, because like, what more can I do to support what they're doing here than buy a ticket? And so I bought a ticket for my son and I and rolled in and parked, and we had a great time. And it felt good, to be honest. It reminds me, actually, this is a great time to remind people that this show is brought to you each and every week by way of my friends at flowracing.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't say enough about what the people at flowracing.com are doing for our sport. $149 a year, $150, the best money you can spend to watch 24/7 drag racing. Almost every race of significance is broadcast live on flowracing.com. Their app is incredible, whether you're on an iPhone or an Android device. They're on Roku, Apple TV. So cool. Such an incredible experience to throw on the Flow app and watch the PDRA race, or watch the NMCA World Finals in Indianapolis, or watch Donald Long's big productions down in Valdosta and Orlando, to check out the Streetcar Super Nationals or whatever else event is going on in the sport of drag racing. And what's even cooler about it is Flow Racing gives back. Every time you subscribe, that's another few bucks in the pocket of a promoter somewhere. They share their revenue with all of their promoters. And I can't tell you, as a promoter ourselves, how cool it is to have someone else out there in the world concerned about our health and well-being. Flow Racing is committed to helping promoters grow their events by way of putting them in front of more people. So log on to flowracing.com/drag illustrated. Join the movement today. We're a week or so away from the 50th annual Snowbird Nationals. If you're not able to make it down to Bradenton Motorsports Park, you'll certainly be able to follow along on flowracing.com. So make sure you check that out, subscribe, support us here at Drag Illustrated and our friends at Flow Racing. But it's crazy to me, to be honest with you, all the various, listen, if you can watch all these races for $150 a year, I mean, you hear people complain about it, and it kind of irks me, because I don't care if they're doing it with like a security camera and a dial-up connection. To think about being able to spend $150 to watch what goes on at these events and not have to drive or fly or what have you, brave the weather. It's kind of amazing, to be honest.
You're muted, T.
Oh, Tease was trying to talk.
He's
Yeah,
doing like
I'm
a mime.
sorry.
I thought he was doing like a mime deal. He's been practicing. Look
Yeah,
good, man.
I did, didn't it? No, I was just gonna say, it's just the case of somebody getting something for free at one point, and
Yep.
then now I can't pay for it because I got that for free one time. Well, like you think that these people fly out there for free and work all weekend and throw a camera on their back and stay out in the heat for free? You know what I mean? Come on, guys.
No, they do not.
It'd be different if they were, like you said, Wes, just profiting or benefiting, only taking from the sport and making money, but they're giving back because what's good for them is good for the sport of drag racing and vice versa. This is a growing deal. I mean, they are invested and they're looking to grow their whole operation, especially in the drag racing side. So, like you said, when you're making your payment, not only are you getting the best drag racing coverage, video coverage, bar none throughout the year, but you're actually contributing to the health of the sport. So do it.
I think it's a big deal, man, honestly. And I really appreciate what Flow Racing does for us here at Drag Illustrated, and another one of our major partners. Been incredible to work with those guys, and I'm looking forward to what we're able to do next year. Speaking of live streaming and events, I think we would be remiss not to talk about the struggles that took place this past weekend at the Streetcar Super Nationals in Las Vegas. Super tough weekend. I don't know how many oil downs, but one of the battles that you fight was 750 cars on the property.
Wow.
Ton of race cars out there. I spoke to Brandon Mudd this morning, their media director for the Streetcar Super Nationals. He's been associated with the series that were at that event and all of their various happenings across the country for many, many years. Just a super tough situation where one thing became two things, become three things, become five things. And it's just, you hate to see that as someone who's put on an event and knows how quickly things can kind of spiral out of control. Really tough thing to see. I know that
they were even using all four lanes there, were they not? Isn't that what Brandon said?
I believe so, doing everything they could. Kind of a weird thing, though. I don't know if it's just the year end. Everybody's stuff's kind of maybe worn.
Yeah,
the conditions are incredible.
Yeah, I've been to that race a handful of times, and it's that's always something that you run the risk of at the end of the year with that deal. And it's cold out there in Vegas. I mean, it's late November in Las Vegas, especially when the sun starts to set. I mean, you've got cold track temps that makes it harder to clean stuff up. Then you've got stuff who's on the ragged edge at the end of the year, and they're in conditions, record-setting conditions, and something's got to give. So I've seen it out there many, many times. It sounds like this year's edition of it was much worse than years past. So I hate to see it. So what's the latest? I mean, what did Brandon say as far as?
From what I understand, they're going to put out like a public statement today. I know that many of the team or whatnot is still traveling across the country trying to get home from Las Vegas right now. I don't know. From what I understand, there's going to be no effort or like there's not going to be an effort to finish the race. They have decided to call it a deal. I believe they made it through the second round of eliminations. Tough deal. You know, you got racers traveling across the country. Part of me, my big takeaway from it, to be honest, is that, again, I'm reminded that more is not always better. It's so tough when you get into those 4, 5, 6, 700 car events. It's difficult, and you're just the likelihood of issues just increases with every single one of them, especially when you're talking about small tire outlaw heads up cars. A couple of things I do think they're going to have to address some type of a situation where, hey, you got to make sure these cars have diapers on them. To have 20, I don't know if this is true. I heard something like 20 or 25 oil downs.
Well, then they just drove it on down the track too. And I mean, my gosh. Yeah, that's an issue. That caused a big problem. Yeah.
It's probably guys that are not, I mean, wasn't it bracket classes or
a lot
like
of more,
not pro mod, not the heads up classes? These guys are probably not even familiar with procedure or so unfamiliar with braking or having a major oil down. They're not even aware of what's going on. So when you have that start to happen, and compounding with everything else, it's a tough deal. And that race is, I mean, it's definitely had its ups and downs. At one point we had the two events. We had the one in St. Louis and the one in Las Vegas. And I think kind of as the home run ball has gone out of style, Wes, don't you think? I feel like we're back to We're back to racing. We're back to eliminations. We're back to winning races and championships. And the long ball hitting is a little bit out of style right now, I would say. And I mean, I'm not going to complain. I'm always a guy that leans towards, get in, just qualify and get in. Anything can happen on race day. But that was during the height of all the record setting, not only in Pro Mod, but in all the drag radial classes.
What do you think the difference maker is on that? Because I agree, it was a couple of years ago, and I don't know if it was just all at Donald's races that were all kind of focused on. I remember situations where it seemed like those events didn't even happen, right? Unless there was a record set.
I think they did it so fast. So it was like, oh my God, can you believe they got it down to here? And then the next race is like, holy shit, they picked up this many numbers, in what, 3 months? And then the next race, bam, holy cow. I mean, I think that's what actually
you're right.
made that
and they got
so
to
crazy.
the point. They got to the point where at
12 qualifying runs and
right. Well, they got to the point of diminishing returns so quickly too. Like, especially I remember, was it Turkey Zafiri? I'm going to butcher his name, in the Q80 Camaro, went like 278 miles an hour or something like that.
All the miles an hour.
Yeah, all of them.
Every single
one. And it got to the point where it's like, that's almost, I think, the safe limit. Probably not even the safe limit. That's over.
I mean, and what's crazy is he did it next to Frankie the Madman Taylor.
In a blown car who went 272 or something. Right? Or 268. I forget what it was. These numbers were ridiculous. I can remember putting together the magazine and just going like, what's next? What am I going to put in this magazine next? Because this is ridiculous. And you get to the point where I just don't know how much quicker and faster they could really go. And because rules were put in place, that was when there were a ton of these outlaw cars out there. And then now that every sanctioning body has put safety and weight rules, at the very least, on these combinations, there's no cars out there that can go out there. Don't you think
there's like there's a unique combination of pro mod racing, like ratcheting up what it takes to race in pro mod has increased rapidly, right? And while at the same time they're laced.
I would argue that it's plateaued. Maybe not NHRA Pro Mod because of those safety rules, but like PDRA Pro Nitrous, and maybe not PDRA Pro Boost this year because of the addition of the screw blower. But those deals, I think they do a really good job now that they've kind of gotten to that level of maintaining it to where you can put together a combination. You may not be Jim Halsey, but you can go qualify and compete, have fun, and compete for a top 10 finish in PDRA Pro Nitrous with stuff that's 5 years old.
Right. I agree with that. I'm more speaking of like the Jason Scruggs and the Terry Leggett's that were like putting a blower belt on the car after every run in those pure outlaw kind of categories. And it takes so much money to do that stuff. And when you have nowhere to race them, I just don't think there's like even an inventory of cars there. There used to be a slew.
Scruggs was like the original outlaw guy. I can remember I was at a race in Darlington. It was an outlaw pro mod race. This was back in the day when pretty much we only raced other nitrous cars in the Don Plemons Quick Gate Association. And this was like an outlaw deal at Darlington, which was just rare. And he's there. And I'd heard this name, but not seen these cars. He had his big block screw blown car, which was brand new. And I don't know that he had run it that much. And he had his trusty small block car. And that thing, he just rolls it off the trailer. I think they check the air in the tires, push it up there, and it goes like 397, which the rest of us were running like 417 at the time or something. So it's like, holy shit. I mean, we were in for it that weekend, and he was like the only one. Then it kind of 2 turned into 4, and 4 turned into 8, and into 16, and you've got all these guys. Then a series was really built around that in the ADRL, and I just think it peaked, and it's gone the other direction now.
I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, I think I'm just saying that the expense of running these outlaw cars got so crazy, and there was so few places to run them. I mean, back then, Jason Scruggs could probably race every weekend and on Thursday nights somewhere if he so chose.
Yep.
But there's not places to run those cars, especially when PDRA did away with Extreme. There's no really place to go compete for a championship in those with that kind of combination.
Definitely
so I think
not a championship. But
that's done away with the desire to build a car like that, to race it, once a year in Vegas or once a year somewhere else. I just don't.
You've got even the Snowbirds and the U.S. Street Nationals, which were always the one-off shows that you could go see these type of crazy cars. We've got that coming up this weekend or next weekend with the Snowbirds, but where you would see, I can remember the Procish Corvette. Do you guys remember that? The screw blown purple Procish Corvette, beautiful car. Tommy Mooney built car. Tommy drove it at one point. Ricky Smith drove it at one point. You would see that car out there, these cars that you wouldn't see at these mainstream pro mod events because their combination didn't fit it. Then it's almost like we made series that fit it. Now we're back the other way to where it's just these one-off deals. So it's just the evolution of the sport. I'm not going to argue with it. I think the sport's healthier when we're concentrating on race wins, championships, and the health of overall series.
Yeah, I agree 100%. JT, I'm changing the freaking deal and then going back. You see what I'm saying?
Oh,
so
yeah.
That way you're not covered halfway up throughout the whole
Don't worry
segment,
about me,
you know
bro.
what I mean?
I can just peek up over the top of it.
Happy Thanksgiving, Danny Drill. Shout out Danny Drill, YouTube comment.
Unfortunately, guys, I want to just throw out there, it doesn't look like we're going to get Jay Cox. He's got a really horrible connection. We had him in the green room for 5 minutes.
We got to get Jay some tech support. Jay built a new mansion out in the woods of North Carolina somewhere. And I've seen some.
He told me he had real bad internet.
Yeah, he's always like, he'll call me and it's like, and he's like, hold on, let me go to the end of my driveway. If he goes to the end of his driveway, he can have a call. So go to the end of your driveway, Jay.
Just go out there, Mike, and get him a booster and get him set up.
He's going to check in with us next week from the track. He'll have a better internet connection from the track next week. And the reason I've wanted to bring him on, and we can kind of use this the next little bit to just talk about the fast approaching 50th annual Snowbird Nationals going on down at Bradenton Motorsports Park. If you look at the entry list, it was basically promoted as the first 50 entries. It sold out in, I believe, 3 or 4 minutes. There's like a 25 person racer long waiting list.
That's just
really
badass.
well
That's
done
awesome.
deal. Super badass, man. And if you go through this entry list, it is a who's who of pro mod powerhouses. I got to be honest. I think it's going to steal the show. Like, I think it's going to steal 2021, and it may be hard for anyone to top it in 2022. I think just the time of year, the money. Don't you think it's going to be spectacular?
Because it's back to the old days. It kind of reminds me of the old IHRA days, the Rockingham days, where you're going to have this is a 32 car field, so you're going to have 32 of the heaviest hitters in the world, but you're going to have enough to make an entire field of cars going home, and these are going to be some heavy hitters as well. And you used to have 16 guys qualify for a show and 40 going home, and the 40 could have comprised 2 or 3 more awesome fields of cars. So that's how it was back in the day. And I just think that that's super healthy for the class of pro mod to have that kind of thing going on, to where it's not a short field or even an 8 or 16 car field. You got a badass 32 car field and even probably a badass 16 car field going home.
We're going to talk about it, I'm sure, next week as well, but we may as well touch on it a little bit. Who do you like headed into this deal? I mean, you said it's a who's who. There's 50 of the baddest dudes on the planet Earth. I'm curious, is there anybody that you think kind of is coming into the deal with a full head of steam with some momentum?
I got two, and I'm pretty sure these guys raced in the finals of this race last year, and that's Jim Halsey and Todd Totoro.
Hard to bet against.
I don't even know what I even need to say against about that, but
it's Tyler Crossnow made a really cool post on Facebook, and I found this interesting. He said, you factor in the fact that Wade Rich, Jimmy Bradshaw will be down there keeping the track rocking and rolling. We're going to see probably one of the best surfaces these guys do all year long. Incredible conditions down there, below sea level, I'm sure. 50 of the baddest cars on the planet. Tyler's predicting that it will take a 366 with a 0 to qualify to be in those top 32 spots. And he thinks it's going to be a 359 that sits atop the list.
So you're going to have 32 cars spread from a 359 to a 366
across 5 power adders potentially.
If that happens, I mean, that's ridiculous. I think 359 I think is a good number one call, but I do think 366 to get in. I'd have to look at last year's numbers, but that seems pretty stout.
if they have 4 full sessions, it's possible. I think if the problem is it's, this time of year or whatever, are you going to lose a session to weather? Are you going to
John Sears is calling me out. Go out on a limb and don't take the easy pick, man. How could you with Halsey? These dudes, they gear up for this type of event, and it showed last year. And as much as they talk, if you talk about combining Pro Boost and Pro Nitrous, and they're going to be the first ones. Our phones start ringing. It's Melissa Schweitzer or Kathy Kraus or Eric Davis. They like to run against other nitrous cars and sort of use that as their measuring stick. But they are not afraid to show up to one of these events, and they'll have the baddest. They'll have 8 Fulton motors in that trailer ready to go if that's what it takes.
They're
going to get the deal done.
I just put the entry list in.
I'm looking at the entry
comments.
list, T, and there's a handful of people. Man. I mean, you can't count out Ken Cartuccio. They've got a hot rod, Jamie Miller tuning on that thing. They've been racing
a lot of these cars. I mean,
Daniel Ferris.
Are you guys on the website, or where are you getting the official list?
I just put the Drag Illustrated. You can just click on
story.
Yeah.
Tommy Franklin, Carl Stevens, Luis De Leon, Brandon Snyder. This is going to be one hell of a drag race, guys. Again, it's going to be a barn. Lyle Barnett coming
Stevie
into
Fast.
this deal with a full head of steam. Stevie Fast Jackson, Marcus Burt, Jason Harris, Tommy Gray. They've been running really well. I mean, Randy Weatherford, Kurt Stedding, Jay Cox, who we're going to have.
Lyle's going to be there. He's been. I mean, you just go down through this list. I mean, it's impressive. To have all these places or all these cars on the same property is impressive.
Bro, it's going to be, I'm excited. I haven't been this excited about a drag race, and I don't even know how long. Being in the staging lanes at Rockingham when it just seemed like they were going to run pro mods until the end of time. Like you couldn't even see the end of them in the staging lanes. To think about a moment like that, it's exciting. George Hoff asks, is Big Chief coming? No, I don't think Big Chief wants any part of these guys. I did see Justin Swanstrom on the list, though.
Yeah, he is.
You got to tip your cap to this cat, man. He's not afraid to throw his hat in the ring. I mean, clearly.
One car that I think would be a heavy hitter and has done well at this race, and I think maybe even won it in the past, would be Lizzie Musey in the Pro Nitrous car. But they're filming Street Outlaws Fastest in America, I think, next week or right after Thanksgiving. I don't think that they're going to make it, but they typically haul ass at this event. These guys that are on the top of their game and are just licking their chops for these types of conditions at the end of the year are the ones you've got to look out for.
Dan, I posted the list in the comments there, just up a little ways.
Screen grab or just can you drag over, copy and paste all those? You can't?
Is Flow Racing doing the live feed, Wes?
Yes.
They sure are. We have a commercial.
We do. I'm pulling it up right now, you guys, to pull up the list, and I'll copy and paste and throw it in there.
It's too long.
Oh, you may have to do half of it.
Yeah, I mean,
half of it. Do half of it and then post the other half so people can see it. George Hoff says, Little Country has impressed me. I thought it was really cool to see Justin be one of those guys that's not afraid to dive in, even knowing that he's a little bit over, he's outgunned at an event like that. His car built with steel roof and quarters, built with a little bit shorter wheelbase, right, to go race no prep kings. Definitely going into an event like this with a little bit of a disadvantage, but it's still cool to see him be willing to throw his hat into the ring. Like I said, seeing Lyle Barnett take a bunch of weight likely off that turbo car, I'm sure hang some bigger hair dryers on it. They will be a player. There's no doubt in my mind, but it's going to be the thing I like about events like this. And for me, it speaks to how good a racing exists within the PDRA. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of hitters on here that come from different walks of the drag racing life, but the baddest dudes in our business, by and large, operate within the Professional Drag Racing Association, Drag Racers Association. The PDRA, I believe, by and large, is home to the baddest door slammer racers on the planet Earth, or fast door slammer racers, pro mod style racers. You look at this list and the guys you want to pick to win, the guys and gals you want to pick to win, they all likely have a PDRA car number.
I mean, I'm seeing Brandon Snyder, as you said,
Does that
Carl
come
Stevens.
up? Can you see that?
Yeah, not really.
No. Just go to Bradenton's Facebook page. One day ago they posted probably the most recent list. That's what I'm looking at.
I was just trying to get it to show up. But
Stevie Jackson, I mean, but these guys are running quarter mile, so they've got to make the most adjustment. Daniel Ferris, that's another one that I see him on the list. And I assume the Galat Pro Charged 69 Camaro. I might have to change my pick. He might be my pick after I see him on the list now.
Ferris,
new boat too.
He just got a new boat.
Yeah, I think he posted a picture of a boat.
That helps.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So those
Jay
are.
Cox, Music Power now. I want to see Jay Cox. I would love to see some of our, some of the Pro Nitrous guys show up and show out. I think, like you said, Jim Halsey's an easy pick. That's a car that's been in the 50s. I'm hoping to see a couple of Nitrous cars dive in to that 3.5 second range.
I think we will see that. And I hate that we can't have Jay on. We'll have to talk about this. It'll be cool to talk to him after this event as well. But he just switched to Music Power. He kind of snuck that out on everybody at the last PDRA race of the season. I don't think he's got a ton of hits on that combination. So seeing him kind of let that thing eat down there this weekend or next weekend, I'm sorry, will be interesting to see what he does with that. Mike Carter, give me final 4 cars. All right. Well, Tutterow, Halsey, Ferris. Let me pick another one. Talk amongst yourselves. All right, I'm going to pick another one.
My final 4. Yeah, let's do final 4s here real quick. That'll be fun.
Chip King's on here twice. I don't know if that's a.
I wonder if he has 2 cars.
Yeah, maybe.
Entered.
Randy Weatherford could be a pick. Jay Cox could be a pick. Melanie Salemi. I don't know. Give me some time, and I'll give you my 4th one.
I got to tell you, I go in with Todd Tutterow. I think he's just been on a roll. I've said this on the show, but he's coming into his own. He's been into his own for a long time, but just being focused on what he's doing, providing for his customers, not necessarily serving the needs of a sponsor or serving the needs of kind of like the team environment. We saw him at the helm of the operation at Alanabi Racing, scoring wins, helping, being a part of that operation. He moves over to Galat Motorsports Park, oversees Galat Motorsports, oversees that whole operation for many years. And it feels like Todd's out here, like kind of on Tutterow Island with a handful of guys that are under his tutelage. The Deckers come to mind, right? Also Tommy Gray, and they've all been running really, really well. Barry Mitchell in big dog competition out in Piedmont. He's got his hands in a lot of hot rods. It feels like they've got a ton of momentum.
Can you confirm that Stevie's running Shadow?
I believe he's running Shadow.
He is? Okay. If he's running Shadow, I'm taking him. That's my 4th car.
How do you think Marcus Burt will fare?
I don't know. It'd be interesting. I mean, when's the last time we saw him on big tires?
Just in Orlando. I mean, it was his. Yeah. So he switched from radials to big tires just a couple of weeks ago for the World Street Nationals, the 28th annual running of the World Street Nationals. But that was a big moment for him.
Right.
He told me, man, I'm excited to be back on big tires, which is pretty fun to hear, man. It's not been that long ago that everybody was abandoning big tires and saying that Pro Mod was going to be contested on drag radials in the very near future. You may as well take your wheelie bars off and hang them up on the shop wall. The tide has changed. Everybody is headed towards big tires right now. So looking at that whole list, I think Marcus Burt will surprise some folks. They have great equipment. Jeffrey Barker helping on that program, obviously, along with Stevie Jackson, Phil Schuler, Billy Stockland. They were hauling the mail down in Orlando. He's great on the tree. Wouldn't it all be surprised to see him in the mix? Great comment from John Mazzarana, leader of the Northeast Outlaw Pro Mods, the Northeast Outlaw Pro Mod Association up in the Northeast. Shocking. One of the oldest, the longest running pro mod club on the planet Earth. And there's several of these guys that also call the Northeast Outlaw Pro Mods.
And gals, Melanie Salemi. I think she would be Tommy Gray, a pick for me as well.
I'm taking Stevie, Tommy Franklin, Jay Cox, and Lyle. And I'm just picking them just because. I mean, literally, you can sit here and pick. God, there's so many good cars on there, right?
I don't know the last
Well, I think
time
I got a
to race
nitrous
this
car,
bad.
I got a screw blown car, I got a Pro Charge car, and I guess I got 2 screw blown cars.
I just figured you go all nitrous.
Yeah.
You're a traitor.
Cameron Lochner asks, why aren't we putting Lyle Barnett up in that top 4?
I did.
Yeah, you did. Talking about Mike and myself, this
yeah.
is one of those things where you have to understand the complexities of going from legal trim to outlaw trim. Not as easy as taking some weight off the car and putting the bigger turbos on it and hoping for the best. You've got a lot of variables on these things, and I wish Lyle all the best, but I think even Lyle would come on and tell you that they've got a tough road to hoe making that switch. The guys that thrive
and a turbo car.
Gosh.
What? And a turbo car running 8th mile. That's the thing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, I mean, if you look at what Carl Stevens accomplished in Pro Extreme with a twin turbo deal, it's definitely there.
Yeah.
It's definitely there, in my opinion. But you're right. They just haven't been running this combination enough. And it's about the guys that are making a lot of runs. If you're making a lot of runs in a certain configuration, that's why we're picking the Tommy Franklins. That's why you're picking the Jay Coxes. That's why you're picking the Jim Halseys, because
Tommy really came on at the end of the season. We had him on when we talked, I think, back in October, and whatever they were trying throughout the season or had been trying, right? I mean, I applaud those guys for having multi-time championship winning combination and car and are still out trying new stuff because they know they have to keep out in front. I think whatever they're doing, it finally started working towards the end of the year. There's somebody to look out for. They've had success at this event in the past as well.
And they reminded everybody, right? When the PDRA wound down at the PDRA World Finals, Virginia Motorsports Park, they were quick to remind everybody, like, hey, we were trying some stuff. We did some experimenting. We're back in championship form. They're going to be a threat to win the whole deal next year. They're going to be a big problem for Halsey. There's no doubt about it. They were. But, man, those are the cars, the PDRA guys, many of those Northeast Outlaw Pro Mod guys that run in this trim a lot. I don't think you're going to see, I think Jeff Jones, Justin Jones, I saw them on the list, guys that routinely run NHRA competition. Love to see them in the mix at an event like this, but it is really hard to pick those NHRA legal cars because they're making basically wholesale changes to come out here and run an outlaw race.
Right.
And I may think I think I may have to kind of eat my own words on the combining of Pro Nitrous and Pro Boost, because I've wanted to see that, and I'm still a believer that there's some magic to be had when all those cars, all those different power adders are competing against one another. But maybe that's what makes these events so special. Events like the Snowbird Nationals, events like the World Street Nationals that are one-off, once, twice, 3 times a year, where everybody comes together and lets it all hang out. Because I don't know that I've been as excited for a drag race as I have been the Snowbird Nationals in years. This is gonna be lit. Seriously. I mean, this is glued to flow racing from Friday morning on. Glued to it.
And it's really the only thing going on, right? It's at the end of the season. Everything else is wound down, and you're already kind of jonesing for some racing. So it's some good scheduling this year as well.
Too bad PRI wasn't still in Florida.
Oh, yeah. I know, right? I love PRI being in Indy, but I have to admit that I miss a lot of those old Orlando days. It was fun, especially those of us that were living in the Midwest, man. Whew, it was freezing cold here. You get in the early December, you get to fly to Orlando and hang out down there.
That's what I hated most about it. It's just far enough. Orlando is like just far enough to drive. So what do you think me and old Charles did? We're driving. Yeah. So then it's in Indy, and now I get to fly. So
Mike has one set of cold clothes that he takes out every year, dusts them off just to go to Indy.
I do.
Yeah, look at my jacket. I've worn it twice. Bought it 2 years ago.
Every year.
You got those leather gloves. You bust out.
It comes out looking like you just come off the Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Gonna shoot his eye out. Yeah,
trying to be festive. I'm trying to be festive also.
Oh shit.
Oh, it's gonna be a lot of
the
fun,
scarf.
Man.
I got a scarf too.
Yeah, you don't wear scarves around here, you get beat up.
It's kosher in downtown Indy, man.
Gary Wheeler asked, what about any of the Midwest Drag Racing Series Pro Mods? To be honest, looking at that list, I didn't see a ton of those guys. Corey Swanstrom just texted me. Corey is saying, and I screwed up and didn't bring Corey, Big Country, Justin's dad. I screwed up and didn't bring him on the show Monday night, the Drag Illustrated Ride Along. So we got to make that right next Monday night and bring Big Country on the show.
Welcome anytime.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
Yeah, he
and what I like about Big Country specifically is his willingness to be so transparent. We were talking Monday night about how much No Prep Kings team spent on diesel fuel, and I arrived at, just based off this going from one race to the next, I think it shook out to be like 12,000 miles. I can't remember where is it at? Yeah, it was 12,489 miles from each event on the No Prep Kings schedule. And I figured, based on diesel being like on average 361, average 5 or 6 miles a gallon, 1,920 miles, like somewhere between 4,500 and 9,000 on diesel fuel, right? And it was fun because it sparked this whole conversation about the money spent in drag racing. And Big Country didn't wait 2 seconds to shoot me a text. 20,621 miles, not counting 2 trips to modern racing in North Carolina. He goes, we spent approximately $18,500 on diesel, but they did make a couple of trips back to their home in Florida. Don't you find that? I love having those conversations, but he said something here interesting. I'm riding with Justin, his son, obviously, for the Snowbird Nationals. We're going 360s next weekend. Made 5 hits in this order: 037, 015, 005, 002. Last run against Marcus, he went 011, and he believes the bump will be a 372. If the bump at the Snowbirds is a 372, if it's something like 359 to 372, we're going to be talking about greatest race of all time, potentially. I mean, that's going to be the conversation.
Yeah, I agree. That spread makes more sense to me. I can see that happen.
Let's bring Victor in here and get his top 4.
Yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, the one and only owner of Bradenton Motorsports Park. I think one of the biggest assets the sport of drag racing has today, the promoter of the Snowbird Nationals, the 50th annual Snowbird Nationals. Ladies and gentlemen, Victor Alvarez. What's up, big dog?
What's going on, guys?
What's up, Victor?
What's up, man?
Hey, man.
30 under 30 a winner also, Wes. You forgot that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Drag Illustrated class of 2019, 30 under 30.
Like that, yeah. I'm getting old now. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Oh, now getting old. Be easy on that stuff, man. We're young. we're real young guys, man. Well, Victor, first and foremost, thanks for joining us, brother. I hope you're having a great holiday weekend, spending some time with the fan, or holiday week. We were just talking about the fast approaching 50th annual Snowbird Nationals, and we were doing a little bit of pick'em here, but we want to kind of backtrack a little bit. We saw an interesting post on social media from Tyler Crossnow, series director for the Professional Drag Racers Association, the PDRA, a series that we know and love. He was pointing to something like 359 being that number 1 spot, and he was predicting a spread as tight as 359 to 366. If that was the case, holy crap. We just heard from Big Country, Corey Swanstrom, predicting something more like a 372 bump. Let's start with low qualifier. Your track's been home to a lot of historic runs. Victor, what are you looking to be that top spot when qualifying ends at the Snowbird Nationals?
I think realistically, I mean, if you take into account the potential of really good weather that we'll have, like, it's looking really good. It should be really good air. I think we should probably see like a 58 or a 59. We saw 2 59s last year at Snowbirds and quite a few like 60 flat, 61. So I think 58 or 59 for the number 1 spot. And I think it'll be tight. Like, if you look at that list, I think it's going to be tight. I think 32 will probably be like a 68.
Dude, if it actually ends up being, did we lose JT there for a second, or did we lose Victor?
Oh, no.
No, you're back.
No.
Did you guys lose me?
Yeah,
no, so you had 358 to a 368.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
Well, that is salty at the bare minimum.
For 32 cars, dude, not just 16. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be a dogfight. And again, we appreciate you being here. I know you got a lot going on right now. Will you take us through just kind of your thought process? We had an off the show conversation here a few weeks ago, and you were just kind of pointing to the exclusivity of selling out those first 50 spots. Can you just take us through how that whole idea came up, and were you surprised, shocked when you sold out in 3 or 4 minutes?
I was definitely surprised. last year at the Snowbirds, I was just in the tower at the end of the event talking with some guys, and I was like, wow, next year's the 50th. We got to do something, to commemorate that. I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's do 50 grand. And everybody kind of looked at me like I was crazy or just talking. I was like, no, seriously, let's do it. And I kind of just spread the word a little bit then. I knew it would fill up, but to fill up, I mean, it was fast. I didn't think it would be like that. And I think, this event is very historic, and there is some, something to be said about that, and something to be said about the fact that it is limited to 50. And it really is. Like, I could have sold probably another 20 or 25 spots, but that's not what I wanted. I want it to be special, and I also want it to be good racing, and I want it to be a good show. Whereas you have too many cars, you know how that gets. It won't be great. Yeah.
How much of a challenge will it be for your team? You got a great staff down there. Wade Rich, as we all know, kind of steering the ship as far as the racing is concerned and what happens on the racetrack. How much of a challenge is it to get to kind of rein in 50 high-level door cars?
I'll have to report back to you in 2 weeks. I'm not sure. I mean, actually, I can't say that. Like our U.S. Street Nationals event too, we got like 48 or something like that last year, 48 pro mods. And I mean, qualifying is tough, it really is, because we pride ourselves on trying to run like a good race. And that is, in my opinion, why people come back, because we leave it all out there. Like, we make sure that whatever can be done to run a good show, have a good track, and everybody to come and leave happy is done. And I think that's a part of the reason that everybody comes back.
It's certainly, by all accounts, that's the case. I'm looking forward to it for a lot of reasons. We've talked, I don't know, a ton about how the Snowbird specifically, but you guys put on a ton of races, right? I mean, we're not too far removed from FL2K. You've got, right after the first of the year, you've got the US Street Nationals. Can you just take us through like a little bit from a promoter's standpoint and a track owner's standpoint, like changing hats like that? I see you on stage at FL2K with the hat on backwards, talking to a huge crowd of what look to be young people. Then next thing you know, you're talking, you're working with Jim Halsey and you're working with Tommy Franklin and these really high level, pro level drag racers. What is that kind of doing all those different dances and serving different markets like for you?
So honestly, it's the best part of the whole thing. I've always said that, like, our industry, drag racing, cars, the aftermarket car industry, the best part about it is the people you meet. Like, by far, I don't care if you make millions of dollars or you don't make any money or you lose money, you spend money racing. The best part is absolutely the relationships and the people that you meet. But for me, as a track owner and a promoter, I started as a promoter, then became a track owner. But my goal has always been to just include as many people as possible. And that was like really how FL2K came about. So, we, being a track in Florida, we run almost all year. We have a huge bracket program. We do FL2K, we do NMRA, NMCA, Snowbirds, US Street. We have a bunch of new stuff we're adding. I would like to do a point series for some of our import guys. Talking to Chris Miller about possibly doing a Honda Day event, since he's starting to do those now. So, like, to me, it's just about inclusion. Like I touched on this when we talked about talked during the 30 under 30 thing. Like, Cletus McFarland, great friend of mine, my next door neighbor at the Freedom Factory. And I remember when he first started doing his thing, started doing the Cletus and Cars events, people would like just talk and nonsense and, oh, it's stupid, it's not real racing. It isn't. It's not real racing. But
no one's saying it is.
No, absolutely not. But the awareness that he brings to our sport and the amount of people that will come to a Cletus and Cars event, whether it's at our place or his, that have never stepped foot on a track before, and now they're into it. And that's what this is all about. We need to include as many people as possible, and we just need to raise awareness, because you see it, tracks are closing all over the place. So really, I'm just about including as many people as possible, treating people right, fairly, and paying out well so that people can continue to race, and taking care of our sponsors. It's a lot that goes into it, but it's really just about the long haul.
What do you feel like is there an opportunity to kind of bridge the gap between the FL2K crowd, the Texas 2K crowd, like the big power streetcar takeover is another one that comes to mind. Mm-hmm. Is there a way to kind of bridge the gap or bring those two communities together? Like, do you see any of the fans or the racers that show up at FL2K? Do they show up at the Snowbirds?
So yeah, they do. And that's a great question. I actually talk about this all the time, because if I do my job correctly, then yes, all of those people show up. And that's what I want, because like the way I look at it, there might be a guy that'll come to, we do Streetcar Takeover as well, that'll come to Streetcar Takeover that's never been on the track before. And in 20 years, we might be talking about him right here about winning a pro mod race. Like, you just don't know. So I think that something a lot of people don't touch on and don't do, or don't make a good effort of doing, is trying to include everyone and trying to make everyone aware. Like, you come to FL2K, it's a great event. It's one of my favorite of the year, obviously. But they're coming to FL2K, and I'm like, you guys have to come back for the Snowbirds. Like, you think this is cool? We're going to have a jet show. We're going to have the fastest door slammer cars in the world. And these guys are racing for $50,000. Like, it's insane. So it's all about inclusion. And I hope to see a lot of that. And I hope to see more people begin to do that. And I hope to see, like, you know, that more promoters start to do that too and branch out and just include more people.
What do you think? What has to happen to get those fans from FL2K to Snowbirds? Like, you're inviting them. That's obviously a big step, making them feel welcome. But don't you think there's like a little bit of a disconnect, like a little bit of an us versus them that exists between like streetcar culture, the import cars, the roll racing guys, the streetcar takeover, the big wheels, twin turbo LS LT world in the hardcore drag racing world? Because I agree with you. I mean, the streetcar takeover guys are a great example. You see somebody, the first time you see them at one of those events, they've got, you know, a Fox body Mustang with a 302 and a cam and a nitrous system. A year later, you see them, they got a little bit better job, and now they got a C5 Corvette with a Pro Charger on it, right? And then you see them a year or two later, and you know what? They got offered a partnership at the accounting firm that they work for, and they're single. They don't have any kids, so they got an Audi R8. you know, and it continues to escalate. Their addiction, their commitment to the sport of drag racing continues to escalate. And it would be my hope one of these days they're in a top dragster, or they're in a top sportsman car, or, to your point, 10 years from now, we're talking about them in the same breath we are Lyle Barnett or Stevie Fast Jackson. And I do feel like there's room for improvement when it comes to bridging that gap. And I appreciate what you do, Victor, at Bradenton to try to bridge that gap, because it's something that I want to see more of. We actually, it's been many moons ago, and unfortunately it didn't work out exactly as planned, but we launched a sister publication to Drag Illustrated called Street Race Magazine. And I used a weightlifting, a fitness industry kind of an analogy that Joe Weider, who's like the godfather of bodybuilding, he owns Flex Magazine, which is like the ultimate hardcore bodybuilding magazine. But he had a sister publication called Muscle and Fitness. And that was kind of, in his belief system, was, I can't get him here, you know, to Arnold Schwarzenegger level if I don't get him in the gym. And I kind of had that same vision, but it does feel like there's not enough of an effort to bridge those gaps. Like, I'd love to see NHRA setting up a booth at Streetcar Takeover, or setting up a booth at No Prep Kings. But there's a lot of, I don't know what word really, there's just a lot of dissension, a lot of segregation, so to speak, that exists in drag racing. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? I'm not trying to bag on anybody. It's natural. People click up. It's like a high school hallway, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, drag racing as a sport is kind of cliquey, and not that it's a bad thing. It just, you know, people are drawn to certain people, or people that are in their class or whatever. But I think that somewhere along the line, and like, so my background, I don't know if you know this about me. I'm an import guy. I'm a diehard import guy. If you like were to go on my personal Instagram or Facebook, you'll see, like, at World Cup finals, I was racing a sport front wheel drive Civic. Like, I'm a diehard import guy. Now, that being said, I love drag racing. I have a Fox body Mustang, and I have a Civic, and I have a Supra. Like, but somewhere along the line, there's just a huge, like, segregation between imports and domestics. And I think that's where it starts. And then it turns into street cars versus race cars. And I'll say, to me, it's more on the street car side than it is on the race car side. Like, I feel like race car guys really appreciate when they'll come to our track, and we'll have like a twin turbo R8 there at a track rental. And they'll be like, holy crap, that thing is crazy fast. And they're blown away by it, and they love it. Where the street car guys kind of aren't really, they're just not into the drag racing thing or the roll cages and like the trailering cars. They're just not into it. So somewhere along the line, it just kind of like, it's just evolved this way, and we really need to fix it. And I feel like, not to toot my own horn, but promoters like myself, or like Tyler Crossno, the guys from Streetcar Takeover, Chris Miller, the younger guys, Jason Miller. We're the ones that it kind of falls on us to kind of bridge that gap and bring it back together. Like World Cup Finals, it's one of the best. I mean, it's arguably, in my opinion, the best event of the year because of the diversity of cars. And I think that to have an event that is that big, that massive, and it just has so many different cars. You'll see a Pro Mod and you'll see a Sport Front Wheel Drive Civic at the same track, and they're both top tier cars. It's not like there's, some BS Pro Mod. Like, they're top tier cars. To see that, we need more of it. That's just what it comes down to. We need a lot more of it. And those fans, they see it and they love it. There's nothing to not like. At the end of the day, we all love speed and we all love drag racing. So we just need to put these things in front of everybody and include more people. And if I get 500 people from FL2K every year to come to Snowbirds or come to US Street or come to NMCA or NMRA, then we're working on it. We're on the right path.
We had a question in the comments pointing at No Prep Kings. We've talked a lot about MPK this year. It feels like that whole program has kind of leveled up. Like it has intensified from a competition standpoint, but also fan following, right? It was like clearly a spinoff show and kind of a second, the other TV show, right? It was definitely different. Whereas now it feels to have really captured the imagination of the masses. It's got a huge following. What was it like having MPK at your track twice this year? And can you kind of compare?
We only had them once.
I thought they were here twice.
Yeah, no, we only had them once. So I'll say this.
Oh, I thought they started and ended there. My bad.
They started, I think, in Palm Beach, maybe.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
But so if you go back in history and you look at any post of mine in regards to No Prep, I've always thought it was the stupidest thing in the world. Yeah. And I think I might have even said that I would probably never do the event. So I ate my words and we did it. That event and that crowd is great for our sport of drag racing. And I think first and foremost, that's like the first thing you have to think. Like if you're just a diehard drag race guy and you're like how I used to be like, oh, I'm not, that's stupid, I'm not doing it. You have to get that out of your mind and just think of how good it is for the sport. We had however many people we had at the track. It was probably the most we've had ever, to be truthful, at Bradenton. And I could say that 50% of them probably had never been there before. And that's so good for our sport. And the cars are just fast. Like I don't think people understand how fast those cars are. Like those cars are fast. The only thing that's keeping them from racing like against Stevie Fast Jackson or Lyle Barnett is that they have steel quarter panels, and they're still not that far. They're not far at all. Like I mean, I don't know what they run. I just watch them go down the track, and I'm talking. The track is our No Prep isn't probably like No Prep everywhere else because we run a lot and we spray a lot of glue and we're a radial track. So I'm sure, and we had guys telling us that it was tighter than their normal No Prep stuff. But I mean, the track was bare. And those guys were flying. I mean, I was impressed. I enjoyed the crowd. I enjoyed the event. I enjoy what they're doing in the sense that people are excited to go to the track again to see someone, not just a car, but people are excited to go see Lizzie Musey and they want to go see Ryan Martin and Justin Swanstrom. And that, again, is just so good for our sport that I just kind of take it on the chin. And now I'm not going to say I love No Prep, but I'm into it.
I was blown away when I went to the No Prep Kings event at the Motorplex. The on-track product is really good. Like it's way better. I anticipated hardly ever seeing a car go down the track. I anticipated it being tire smoke after, and there's that exists. Yeah, but there was a lot of really good racing, especially when you got to like the Invitational and you got kind of like into the second round. These things are welded together and skating all over the place. And the fan reaction, a track that's known for setting records like Bradenton, Victor, what was your fan reaction to the scoreboards being off? We've been big proponents of the scoreboards being off for a long time. I love that gamesmanship and secrecy. I love that narrative, but I know hardcore race fans hate that shit. They want to see what the cars run. They want to know what at 60 foots. They want to know what at 330s. They're talking about back splits. What's your take on it, and how did your fans react?
I struggle with no time stuff as a whole because I grew up more into grudge racing and no time racing and even street racing. That's just, I grew up in Long Island, New York. We had a track in the Hamptons that closed in like 2000 So like we had to street race. That's just what it was. So I'm actually a fan of it, but I feel like the fans, the spectators that don't know as much as you or I know about how fast these cars are,
Right.
they don't enjoy it. I don't think. I think long term it's better for the sport to have the clocks on, and I think people would just be so impressed with how fast some of these cars are. Now, don't get me wrong; it's still good. It's still fun to watch. It's still good side by side racing, and you know, like sometimes to me, it's really cool when you can't even tell who won and you're looking for the win light. But I think it's better for the sport when we show times, and it's very hard for me to say that.
It is. I can make an argument either way, and that's what I think is kind of fun about it, because I see both sides of it. Like when I think back to our first World Series of Pro Mod at Bandamere Speedway, what I thought the coolest thing we did was not have the clocks on. The clocks were on, you know, the teams got a time slip. They were cut in half and they know what they ran, but they certainly didn't know what their competitor ran. And it kind of, being that we were in a new venue at an altitude that none of these cars had ever run at, there was this real huge question mark, this big mystery about what everybody was going to run. And our thought process was we were going to leave the clocks off during what we called shakedowns, because the event was invite only. We did 3 rounds of shakedowns, and no one got to see what anybody else ran. But then during eliminations, to your point, because we wanted the fans to know just how fast these cars are, even at 10,000 feet of elevation, that these are 5-second, 250 mile an hour, quarter mile door cars. And it was kind of a best of both worlds type of scenario. But like, if you talk to any hardcore drag racing fan, the notion of not knowing what the cars ran is, they won't even begin
It's blasphemy
to accept. It's blasphemy.
Yeah,
Can't even imagine.
And so like, it's again, it's hard for me to say it, because to me, I think the coolest part of no time racing or anything like even what you guys just did is the unknown. When you pull in the water box and you just, like, as a drag racer, you're like, I'm gonna whoop this guy's ass, but you have no idea. At the end of the day, you're trying to sell yourself. You really have no idea. And the fans, the same thing. Like, they have no idea who's gonna win. So it just depends how you look at it. And I can make the argument both ways, like you said. But I don't know. I think long term, for like sake of the sport, I think boards on is more of a appeal to the fan.
Where do you stand on sport compact racing, like as a whole? It feels like we saw this thing become the hottest gig in town. I point back to those Fast and Furious days when the NHRA had a sport compact series. We had Nopi, all these independent events all over the country. Where do you stand on it here today? Because I am blown away. If we even so much as mention one of these import races, Victor, if we so much as run a short, small story or a photo on social media of one of the stars of that brand of drag racing, it blows up. It goes bonkers. The fan following is insane. It's so rabid, so loyal. What do you think the future holds for sport compact import racing? Because maybe it never went away as much as people maybe think it did, but it feels like it's certainly on the come up.
Excuse me. I think that it needs to be revived almost. It needs to be saved. Just because I grew up going to NHRA Sport Compact events. And I don't know where they dropped the ball or how they messed that up or what happened there. But I think that it's such good racing. And I think it's that segment just doesn't get enough exposure and enough attention. And it's very hard to do one of those events because you don't have, which I just saw him comment, a John Sears. You don't have a Tyler Crossnow. You don't have somebody doing rules, like a good rule package for those things. So what happens is you get people all year building cars, sport compact cars, and they're building them for themselves or to like a personal goal. Like, I want to go 680s or I want to go 8.0 and a sport front wheel drive or whatever the case. But aside from extreme front wheel drive, there's no rule set. So we're just building cars blindly. I've been guilty of it myself. And then what happens is then you have World Cup Finals comes up and you look at the rules and you're like, damn, I don't fit anywhere. And I think that's the biggest problem with that. Where if you have anybody could throw a race tomorrow and have Ultra Street, X275, LDR. You get my point? Like
1,000,000%, man.
Yeah. So like that structure is what that sport compact scene lacks. And somebody kind of needs to step up and do it. And I've
always pointed to what John Sears did with X275 specifically, and essentially franchising a set of rules, I think it's brilliant. I don't know that he gets enough credit. I know that
he doesn't get enough credit at all.
And he takes a lot of shit and he deals with a lot of shit. But I'm telling you, man, if you look, I went to a bunch of NHRA Pro Mod guys like 10 years ago, whenever X275 was really, and it was like X275.net, and it was nothing more than a rule set and a list of tracks that were like approved to run our rules, or who had agreed to run our rules. I thought, this is the smartest thing I've ever seen.
And drag racing as a whole needs more of it. And especially the sport compact scene is kind of just a mess. And there's nobody who's kind of like taking charge of it. And honestly, if that happened, it would be great. But it would take, the problem is it takes a while because, like I could come up with a rule set tomorrow, but not everybody's going to go and change their turbos or change this or change that.
Correct.
It takes 2 or 3 years, and they see that it's going to be there for a while. They see the support is there, good events, good tracks, good payouts. And then it can develop. It's going to take some time, but I would love to see it happen because, just the same way we're talking about the Snowbirds, we should be talking about our Sport Compact Evolution event, which it's our second one we're going to do in February. And again, it's Sport Compact, and my goal is to just be a small part. I'm a small part of the puzzle, but to try to build that whole segment back up.
Speaking of rule sets, who did you work with on the rules for the Snowbirds, and like what's the scoop on the rules? Is that largely a PDRA? Okay.
Yeah. So we work with Tyler, and John definitely has input, and John is involved with PDRA as well. He helps them and does some tech for them. So we wait a while to put our rules out because we wait to see what PDRA is doing and how close it is and whatnot. And they had their race this year where they did PDRA Pro Boost and Pro Nitrous in one class. I forget the name of the race, but it was a really, really awesome race. So we really waited to see that race in particular to see how it all stacked up.
PDRA Pro Stars. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it was such a good event, and the drag racing was great. Tyler was pretty much helped us do the rules last year, and it was a great race. It was really close. You had a car from every combination go like between 59 and 61. So it was great. It was spot on. So we pretty much did the same thing this year. And I want to say our rules are an exact copy of theirs at this point. I think we might have made one change.
I believe you deserve kudos just for your willingness to follow suit, Victor, because you talk about the clickiness of our sport. There's also a certain level of egocentric, my way or the highway race promoters, track operators, where no one wants to fall in line. No one wants to be the guy that says, oh, I'm just going to do what they do. So many promoters, so many track owners take great pride in doing it their way. And these are the rules we're going to run. And I honestly think that that's the success of your event, the success of Shakedown Nationals, the success of, and especially in terms of participation, it's rooted in that stable rule set, a kind of a unified rules. I always point to boxing, right? That's one of the things that killed boxing for so many years was it was bastardized. Everybody had their own light heavyweight meant something different everywhere. And there was an ABC light heavyweight champion, a UBC light heavyweight champion, a WBF, there's 10,000 different federations and sanctions that were putting on these matches, and it just watered it down. And no one really knew what it meant to be the featherweight champion or to be it wasn't unified. I think there's a move towards a unified rule set for outlaw door slammer racing that I hope at some point in the future could exist for quarter mile door slammer racing. Like if NHRA Pro Mod, going back to what I was saying about John Sears and X275, I was in the tower at ZMAX Dragway. I really think it was maybe 10 years ago, maybe not quite 10 years ago, but X275 was ramping up, and it seemed like there were more cars and more events than you could keep up with. And they were all flying that X275 flag. And I went to some rule makers and the powers that be in that NHRA Pro Mod world, and I suggested to them, your rules are really good right now. What if you took that rule set and franchised it, so to speak, like X275 and said, hey, we will help promote your event. We will let you run our flag or run our banner and kind of operate under our umbrella, but you have to agree to run our rules. So instead of having 10 or 12 NHRA national events, you'd have your 10 or 12 NHRA Pro Mod national events, but you'd have like 50 regional events that were happening at different tracks all across the country. And it would just grow the inventory of cars that could ultimately show up to the U.S. Nationals. And unfortunately, it fell on deaf ears. But I really don't know that John Sears gets the credit he deserves for that X275 movement. And I hope, from your mouth to God's ears, Victor, I hope that happens in sport compact racing or anywhere, because it can only help.
Yeah. Well, I could say that, so we don't skip over it because I can't say it enough. Definitely John Sears doesn't get enough credit. What he has done for small tire racing and how he keeps it together, and just his view of his willingness to work with everyone and to just grow the class is just, he doesn't get enough credit for it. And I don't think he ever will, to be completely honest. But there's two types of promoters and there's two types of track owners. And this is my opinion. You could agree or not. There's the guy who, like me, will say, nobody is going to build a car for one race a year. And then, and when I say that, I mean, I am all for 20 people hitting me up and saying, hey, I want to use the FL2K rule set for this race, all over the country, hopefully. I'm all for that, because I'm not buying a certain turbo or building my car for one race a year. I'm not doing it. And that's my take on it. And that's how I approach all of it. And that's why, there's been conversations where I have talked to Tyler, Donald Long, John Sears, and try to bring everybody together and more people, but just try to get everyone together, because that's how I think of it. Nobody's building a car for one race or two races a year. And then you have the track owners and the promoters that they're so greedy that they want to change one thing in their rules, and they want to do their event the week before yours or the week after yours, because they don't feel confident in their product that there's enough to go around for everyone. And they're more focused on them making money or them having a successful event rather than drag racing as a whole being a success.
And benefiting from it, right?
Correct.
A high tide lifts all boats. And you're exactly right. It's a scarcity mindset. I try to remind people of that all the time, that, like, man, there is enough to go around. There really is. There's
100%.
enough cars. There's enough sponsors. There's enough money floating around our industry. There's no reason that within reason, everyone can't be successful as they should be. What do you make of radial tire racing right now? You talked about Bradenton being a radial tire track, pointing to the prep. Wade Rich, known around the world for his track prep skills and the racing surface that he provides. I know Wade and Jimmy Bradshaw will be working for you down at the Snowbird Nationals. But what do you make of radial tire racing right now? I mean, we see Pro 275, kind of the new big time radial category, not seeing what we used to see with radial versus the world. Is that because of what you were just saying, that no one's going to build a car to race a couple of times a year, Victor? Or where do you think that particular brand of racing stands here as we close 2021?
Well, I'll tell you this. I don't hold my tongue, and I don't hold back for anyone. So you're asking the right questions. I will try to not offend anyone, but I'm going to say what I really think it is. I think that the powers that be behind Radial vs. the World killed it. And I think that if we're not careful, they'll kill Pro 275, and they'll come up with another class, and they'll eventually kill it. And I do think it's a little bit of it's a lot of ego. There's a lot of ego involved. And it's some of the, I'd rather my race be huge and, do mine 2 or 3 times a year and nobody else have a big race, compared to the guys like myself or John who are like, let's spread this thing like wildfire so people build cars all over the place, so that there's more cars and there's more people, and that our sponsors are getting more phone calls for more class legal turbos and more, M&M transmissions and more Carmack rear ends. Like, let's grow this thing. So you just have, it's just a mindset. Some people have a very small mind, and they're very greedy, and they're very, they don't want anyone to succeed but themselves. And at the end of the day, that is the absolute worst thing for our sport. Like, I'm perfectly okay. And I'll tell you, this is funny. I'm going to say this, and it's the truth. Alan Shervitz, that I bought the track from in 2013, I begged and pleaded with this man to let me do FL2K. And I said to him, and I looked him dead in his eyes, I'm a co-owner of a performance shop, Induction Performance, my first event. And I said, I don't care if I don't make a single dollar doing this event. I want to grow this segment. I want to grow this sport, and I want local shops to benefit from it. And that was the only reason I think that he let me do the event. And that mindset is what has got me to where I am. And that mindset is why within 4 years of being a track owner and having never talked to a single Pro Mod driver or Pro 275 driver or any of that, I've made it to where I am. And not to say that I'm, on top of the world.
No, I feel you, man. I totally
I've done
appreciate what you're saying.
I've done very well because we always do the right thing. If we say we're going to pay something, we pay it. If there's no favoritism. And because I don't think of myself, I always put drag racing, not drag racers, drag racing first.
I couldn't agree more, man. It's been interesting to see this massive shift because a few years ago, by all accounts, you may as well sell your slicks, you may as well sell your wheelie bars. Everything was going to radials, and we were just going through the entry list of the fast approaching Snowbird Nationals, and you see a whole lot of people in the mix there that not so long ago were like radial tire superstars. And it's funny how the pendulum swings back and forth, right? And I don't, I've always been like a big tire and bars guy.
And that's why you don't poke the bear, but continue on.
No, it's true, man. I mean, it's for me, it's just, it all boils down to how many opportunities will we have to run this car? Really. I mean, if you're making this kind of investment, a rolling chassis in this day and age, easy 175,000 most of the time, like I would say that's a fairly average price. You go build a car, wire and plummet, buy the latest, greatest Pat Musey engine or Sonny's racing engine or whatever, or go buy a Proline Hemi deal or whatever the case may be. You want to run that car. You want to be able to race that thing fairly frequently. Yeah. And I think you're exactly right. These unified, stable rule sets that aren't changing dramatically year to year, you can kind of count on them being close to the same. Man, that stability means a lot to people. And it also seems like the money went crazy high. All these races were paying crazy money, felt like it wasn't really sustainable. And it's funny because that's gone the other direction as well. So it is a really interesting situation because we've kind of polling our fan base. We still see a lot of people that are massively attracted to radial tire racing. And I kind of hate it. We built this big fan base. We built this huge following for small tire racing. And now in a lot of ways, I feel like we're failing them.
Well, I mean, we are because we, and myself included, we don't stand up to the bully, so to speak. We don't, like if 5 people know that one person is doing something that can harm drag racing, and those 5 people don't just say screw that guy and just do their own thing, it falls on us. And I've tried to do it, but at the same time, it's a fine line between causing more damage than good, and you don't know until it's too late. So when I got to the point where I was like, I think Radio versus the World is going to die, and I wanted to try to put a group of guys together to do our own thing, everybody was willing to talk about it, but nobody was willing to actually do it. Everybody agreed with what I said, but nobody was willing to actually do it. And I wasn't trying to take anything from anyone, I give credit where it's due. Donald Long did a great job creating Radio versus the World.
He put radio racing.
Yeah, he did.
I don't think we can say enough about what Donald's done.
And if you think about it, he does the same thing with John Sears. He's not going to ever get enough credit for what he's done for radio racing. But I mean, he's single-handedly ruined Radio versus the World. It just is what it is. And I'll say that in front of however many people are on here. And whoever doesn't disagree is just blind.
What do you think it is? Is there any saving that deal? Is there any putting the rabbit back in the hat, so to speak, Victor? I don't think
not
so.
Not for Radio versus the World. Those guys, we welcome them. Come over to Pro Mod. We'll throw some good races for them. There won't be any games. There won't be any crazy rule changes. It'll be stable. You have PDRA, you just have great rule sets. PDRA, NMCA, NHRA Pro Mod is pretty good. Like, you have places to race, and there's not going to be any favoritism. There's not going to be any games. There's not going to be any nonsense. Now, what I do think is important is that for the stability and for the future of these classes is that we learn from our mistakes and we protect Pro 275 and we protect limited drag radial and X275 and Ultra Street you don't ever have to worry about. Limited 235, in my opinion, you don't have to worry about because you have John Sears. But we need a John Sears. When you leave one person in charge of a rule, a set of rules, and they're pretty much the only person all year that benefits from it, and they're the only ones who really do an event with those rules and with those classes, at the end of the day, that lack of input from others and that lack of just kind of like transparency and that lack of just spreading that class and making it that people can race several times a year instead of 3. The lack of willingness to let 15 races a year happen and let there be a point series when people are calling you and saying, hey, I will put money up and we'll get 5 or 6 good tracks. We'll all put money up. Let's just make a rules committee. We'll all put money up. We'll do a point series. And you say no to that. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't get more clear than that. Like you care about lining your pockets more than you care about the future of the sport. You can twist it however you want, but that's what it is.
I can't argue with you one bit, Victor. Kind of closing thoughts here, and I appreciate you taking some time. I do want to remind everybody real quick that the Drag Illustrated's Wes Buck Show is brought to you each and every week by way of our friends at Stroud Safety. Stroud Safety is the world leader in drag racing safety equipment, from drag chutes and seatbelts to fire suits, gloves, and blankets, all 100% made in America. Log on to StroudSafety.com and make sure you tell them your friends at the Wes Buck Show sent you. Victor, it's Thanksgiving week. We got the holiday tomorrow. I hope you're going to have a little bit of R&R before what's going to be a barn burner of an end of the year and start to 2022 for you and the guys at Bradenton. Look back at 2021. What are you grateful for, man? What stands out as some things that you're super thankful for?
Man, we I can't say, and I don't have enough time. We'd have to have a whole second show, but I can't say enough about our fans, not just the fans of Bradenton, but the fans of our sport, our sponsors. I'll give 3 a shout out because they deserve it. Motion Raceworks, they're the ones that are behind the Snowbirds and help us put that big purse together. Mark Mickey, Carmack, same thing. They're the ones that help us put that $50,000 together for that race. Brian Crower, they help us. They're the title sponsor of FL2K, and Diamond Pistons are the title sponsor of US Street. So definitely a big shout out to them. And really just everybody in our sport that contributes for the greater good and not for their own good. You especially, John Sears, Tyler Crossnow, all the other great track owners, like you guys. That's what I'm most grateful for, because I just got into this. This is my 4th year as a track owner, and I'd like to be doing this for a long time. And it takes guys, like-minded people, and people like you that will go to the mountaintops and scream for what's right, and not for what's right for you, but what's right for our sport. And that's what I'm grateful for.
Man, Victor, thank you so much for the kind words. And I hope we feel the same way about you, man. I look around at our sport and I see young guys like yourself that are doing the things that you're doing and know that you're doing it for all the right reasons. And it's just, I'm going to sound like the Grinch. My heart grows like 5 sizes. I mean, I just get excited every time I hear you doing something new or trying something new or putting on an event or helping someone. So thank you for what you have done for the sport of drag racing, what your team at Bradenton Motorsports Park does for the sport of drag racing every weekend. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. Can we count on you at PRI? Are you going to come see us?
I'm going to come party with you. No, I'm coming to party with you. Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay, good deal. JT, you better shoot him the link. JT, Mike, welcome back to the party. You need to shoot Victor the link to make sure he gets himself a table.
Yeah, I need a table. Bradenton needs a table. I got to see if I can drag Wade with me.
Better get on it quick. How many are left?
Sell out later today. Do we have any left, T?
I think like 2 maybe.
Oh, well, put my name on one of them.
Yeah, put
I
one
can't do
on
it. You
them.
have to do it on the app.
All right,
we'll send you the link right now. We'll send you the link right now. Daniel Afato says, can we get a Drag Illustrated Import Edition? I kind of actually want to do that, and Victor, maybe you can help me.
We can do it.
Maybe not. I don't want to do 10 or 12 issues, but I'd like to do one. Like one a year.
He can help you too.
For real?
Dan's the man. That's the guy behind the soft spot. He does a lot for our sport, especially the sport front wheel drive guys. And he's heavily involved with Chris Miller and promoting all those races. So check them out too. He could also help you. But you know me, if it helps the sport, I'm there.
Well, it sounds like a plan, man. Thank you so much for your time, dude. Enjoy your holiday. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours.
You guys.
Take care of that brand new little one, man.
Awesome.
Talk to you soon, big dog.
All right.
Better, Victor.
Dude, we should have kept him. I should have told Victor we were going to have him for like 5 hours.
Yeah.
Because I think
man, lots of great points there. And just, I don't know, makes you proud. Papa Bear moment, right, Wes?
Don't you think?
We saw this guy a couple years ago, seeing what he was doing in the sport, honored him as one of our 30 under 30 members, and he's lived up to every bit of that and then some. Just, you know, the way he's doing it, and he's a soft-spoken guy, but he pulls no punches, and the things he said, and it's cool to see someone barely over 30 years old with that kind of insight, maturity, and
he's hustling, man.
intelligence.
Making moves.
And not on the track, off the track. That's what I like the most. I mean, you know, I think we all are lured to drag racing on the track, but when you're able to, but when you're able to do other things outside of that, whether it be owning a track, promoting, media, really anything, I'm always proud of those type of people.
I am too, man. And I think that would be a fun way to kind of close the show, guys. I appreciate both of you being here. I know we're headed into the holiday, and thank you for spending, you know, the last, I guess, business day of the week. Do people work on Friday after Thanksgiving? They don't.
No.
Do they?
Generally,
no.
no.
And usually not
unless you're a drag illustrator.
Yeah, usually not the following week either. So I'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Man, that's why we've been busting our ass getting all this stuff done, Wes.
I was just throwing it out there. I wasn't sure what everybody's plan was on Friday, but
I was planning on coming back the day before PRI, heading out, and then see you guys like January 2nd, you know, somewhere in there.
JT's done for the year.
Yeah. Hey man, I could honestly, I would be all right with that. It's been a barn burner, man. I mean,
absolutely.
In like
tons of comments on Victor. I think that was Victor's debut to the world or whatever.
Victor's victory lap.
Yeah, Victor's victory lap.
Yeah, that'd be a good segment, right?
Man, yeah,
Victor's victory lap.
We need more folks like him in positions of power in the sport.
No, Gary, I do not need to work on Friday.
Man, I sure think so, man. I'm genuinely like hearing him on here and hearing him be willing to like put himself out there, say what he thinks. We need more of that. We really do. Like that's the classic like Dana White UFC promoter approach. You've got to be willing to throw yourself out there. I mean, he's winning people over whether they love or hate what he's saying. I mean, he's gaining their interest. He's getting there to getting their attention, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's important, man.
He's going to have a hell of a race this weekend. Check it out. If you're not going to Bradenton, check it out on Flow Racing. It's pretty much the only game in town, right? As far as racing next weekend.
Thing, not to have to compete with anything else, you know, like it's not stacked on a bunch of other events. It should be honestly, I think it's race of the year. It's looking to me like it's going to be race of the year. I'm anxious to see what individual matchups stand out because I think we're going to get to see Marcus Burt versus Tommy Franklin potentially. Two people who kind of operate in different worlds.
When we were going through that list earlier, I kept just thinking, this linear list or whatever looks great, but how is qualifying going to shake out? That is going to determine. You could have one of your final matchups in round 2 or something just because of weird qualifying stuff. So it really depends on how the ladder shakes out.
It does. What do you guys, let's kind of round the corner and head toward the finish line here, talking about just what I asked Victor there. What are you thankful for, Mike? And we can continue this. It doesn't have to be a throw it all out in one breath, but let's just kind of start the conversation of gracious things we're grateful for here as we head towards Thanksgiving. Like, what can you say about the sport of drag racing just rebounding from COVID?
You go first, D.
Oh, I thought he asked you.
I thought he asked you.
I mean, great. I mean, you know, what was it last year this time? People were having to wear masks outside and trying to go around and no fans and still trying to put on these shows and still trying to do some payouts with no entry fees. And I mean, you know, how hard on that was everybody and to still do the events and try to get these racers paid. I mean, huge shout out to all the racetracks around and promoters that did that. But now, you know, I think we're full bore, and I think that people got a taste of not having this stuff.
Right.
And when you don't have it, man, you just miss it, and you don't realize it until it's gone. And now you realize it when it was gone. And it seems like that people have really embraced it coming back. And man, people are just coming out in drones to everything. It seems like.
Oh, dude, you can have like, I mean, it's a rock concert, a country music concert,
It's just packed.
a car show, whatever. It's all packed because I think you're right. The silver lining to COVID and to this global pandemic, unfortunately, was all of us getting a taste of having those freedoms taken away from us. I think it's interesting because I remember it was probably about this time last year, SEMA was canceled, PRI is canceled, and you started to hear a little bit of conversations around, well, maybe we're going to learn that we don't need these events.
Right.
Maybe we're going to learn that we can live without them.
I was wrong.
That I believe they're wrong. I just don't know
I
that
really
there's
hope
any
they are.
replacement for getting human beings together in a room.
That's what I opened the show with that. That's what I'm thankful for and looking forward to seeing is how PRI shakes out. I expect it to maybe take a couple of years to get back to the strength that it was. It kind of feels like 2019 was like a freight train. I mean, everything was firing on all cylinders with the industry and with everything, where everything was with the economy and the world in general. And then we've had to kind of reset since then. So I expect it to take a couple of years, but I'm excited to get back to it. And JT sort of alluded to all the on-track stuff, or as far as the stuff we see in public, but behind the scenes or in the industry is kind of more what I gauge it on. And I'm hoping to see some of these supply chain things work themselves out. I really feel like the demand is there. We hear a ton of companies having
For sure.
their best years ever, even if they're just booking sales and unable to fulfill orders.
Fulfill those orders.
I hope that we get all that sorted out and things sort of get back to normal on that end. But I feel like the industry is strong, and I feel like it's ready to bounce back. There's just some things that are holding it back, but PRI is going to be a great litmus test for where we are overall. And I'm excited that we're actually having it. And shout out, I think it goes unnoticed a little bit too. We talked about Orlando versus Indianapolis. Indianapolis is invested in the racing industry. It's a big part of their economy, of their history, of sort of the culture of that town and that area. And so they're going to do everything it takes to have a PRI. The fact that we didn't have it last year was just, they did all they could up until probably around this time, and they had to announce they couldn't have it. So it's important to that area, and it's important that we continue to support an event like that. And that to me is why it's there and why it was there for decades before it went to Orlando and why it went back there. So a big difference between that and SEMA in Las Vegas, which has a different political climate, and it kind of falls in a different rung of the ladder in Las Vegas than it does in Indianapolis. So I'm excited.
It's like the center of the universe in Indianapolis. Like when you go to PRI, everybody in town has heard of it. They maybe don't know all the nuances or the intricacies of it, but they certainly know what you're talking about. It's great to see that local community rally around it. David's telling us PRI where we can go discourage stupid electric race cars. Man, it's the electric car movement. I think we almost need to dedicate an entire episode to that in the future. Marco Philham, thank you so much.
I think that would be interesting because we all fall on different areas. And I actually think Victor himself, I've seen some of his social media posts. I think he's got like a badass Tesla or something.
He just bought it. But he bought it because of diesel prices. He has to drive like an hour and a half to work every day, I think he said.
Right.
And he drives a big old diesel dually or something. And he says it's just killing him in gas prices or diesel prices. So he's like, man, I'm for whatever doesn't make me have to buy more diesel right now.
Well, there's so many different angles to approach that deal. I think maybe, we should have a show dedicated to that.
I was actually thinking, not that I want to change the format of the show, but some of the things we've been talking about, when we do have some great news that's going to come out late this year and early next with some cool new pieces of content we're going to bring to the table here. But I did think that it would almost be cool to do a singular topic for certain episodes where we dive in and tackle a certain thing. That's what we're going to talk about. And then bring guests in to offer their input or bring, kind of their unique perspective to the table. Right. I just think that'd be a fun thing. I will say, I want a little bit of self-serving here. I want to remind everybody to support the companies that support us here at Drag Illustrated. There are a lot of them across 15, 16 years of publishing a magazine. We just sent our 172nd issue to press. Shout out to our whole team. Going to be a big one.
30 under 30. That's another big
annual
part.
30 under 30, man.
Yep.
A huge event. Support Remember, Redline Oil's brand new sponsor here, Stroud Safety, Elite HP, the world leader in used race car parts and equipment. Check out their full inventory, elitehp.com. Sand Haulers of America. I think I mentioned Flow Racing, Stroud Safety. We're very blessed to have a host of people that see things the way we do, share our vision for the sport of drag racing, and are trying to help us be there. And to your point of everybody being up, Mike, I was just looking at some like year-end stats. I believe we mailed this issue of Drag Illustrated to more subscribers than we ever have in the 16-year history of our company. Our web traffic, I was looking at some web traffic numbers for the last 90 days, up 100%. I mean, what do you think the whole sport of drag racing is up? Like, do you think fan interest is even up? Because for everybody that wants to bag on NHRA or crowd, I mean, they had sellout crowds this year. Victor Alvarez just told us, I mean, from the horse's mouth, that probably the biggest crowd ever in the history of Bradenton Motorsports Park was there for the No Prep Kings event. Do you guys sense that car culture and drag racing, as well as maybe drag racing specifically, is on the rise?
I do. I think it goes back to having it taken away from you, or the threat of that. And so you learn to appreciate it. Hot Rod Dave in the comments says, COVID has made me look at life a lot differently. Better live it while it's here. And I kind of feel like everyone,
there's a lot of people like that.
Is looking at it that way. And I'm hoping it's not like a short-term rebound. We've got to keep it up. We got to keep up the support. All these things that we talk about, it's good that we're back to it. But, once the honeymoon phase is over, we've got to remember some of these things that we learned and keep it up,
To be honest, that's why I feel we're going all in on PRI this year. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that were kind of on not a lot of people, but I have talked to people who are on the fence about going, who have made the decision not to go this year. They feel like maybe they don't have to, or they're, and I respect everybody's opinion, different strokes for different folks, right? But I almost feel an obligation. I remember when we bought a booth at PRI for the first time. It was in 2006 or it was 2007. The first couple of years of business, we just couldn't afford it. I don't know how we would have had to walk to Orlando because we couldn't afford to drive.
Some funny stuff those first couple of years.
We did, man. But I remember in 2007 feeling we have to buy a booth at this event because we have to support this. I want to be, I mean, it shouldn't even be an option. We have to do this because I don't want to be one of those guys that show up down here and just, and this is, I don't mean it to be a derogatory term, but just leech, show up and see what they can extract from this event and what they can extract from this event or venue in this community without investing in it as well. Because, man, buy a booth, be a part of it, buy a ticket, show up,
and it's all what you make of it too, right? I mean, we had plans to reinvest into the industry, and then I don't think anybody gets more mileage out of their PRI booth than we do. I mean, we're using every square inch of that thing, and we're doing 200 different things out of it, or having people. We've had press conferences at our booth. I mean, it's all, you create the platform, you buy the platform. Don't just set up a table with some business cards and some flyers and hope
wave at people as they walk by and hope they stop.
Yeah, you've got to actually do something with it.
So let's run through that real quick, guys, and we'll wrap this deal up. Again, I want to thank everybody for being a part of this. If you have any questions, please let us know. Throw them in here. Shoot us a DM on Instagram. Shoot us a DM on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're following along. Shoot me an email, wes@dragillustrated.com. I want to remind you.
For all of us, Mike at Drag Illustrated, JT at Drag
Illustrated. Copy us all. We'd love to hear from you. We get a lot of emails. We reply to them. We read them. A couple of things I want to touch on briefly. If you had a great season, maybe you didn't have a great season, maybe you're looking forward to a better season in 2022, shoot out a press release. Let us know. Send us a message. We can't know everything that's going on in the sport. We do our absolute best, guys, but let us know what's going on. Send a press release, press@dragillustrated.com. And we're not alone in the world. There's a lot of great media outlets that exist in our sport. You gotta let us know. You gotta keep us in the loop. Like I said, we do our best to know what's going on, but we can't know every single story. And if you feel you've got one that's worth telling, let us know. If there's something that's weighing on you, or an issue that exists in your world or your local track, or that you think's on the horizon, let us know. We'd love to talk about it. We'd love to explore it to the best of our ability. Going around the room, Mike, JT, let's just touch on everything we have going on at PRI. First and foremost, DI After Hours, powered by Titan Racing Engines, the biggest party in drag racing. Tickets will be available, I believe, publicly tomorrow morning. Let's just set a date.
Now.
They're available now. Okay, tickets are available right now. We anticipate this event selling out probably by the end of
we
the
do
week.
have a limited capacity due to COVID.
Yeah, listen, and I mean, I'm not just promoting. I'm promoting. Don't get it twisted. But we will sell out without question. We've sold out every year. We've been at fire code by midnight. Typically, we are letting one in for everyone that goes out. It's a very big event. It's a CNB scene event. I think the ultimate networking opportunity, if you're trying to do something in the sport of drag racing, or you are doing something in the sport of drag racing, you need to be at DI After Hours powered by Titan Racing Engines. This deal is going to be off the hook December 9th, Thursday night. If you stop by our booth, you can pick up an early access pass. This will get you into the club an hour before anyone else. So make sure you're at our booth Thursday morning, 9 a.m. when the PRI show opens. Right after the opening breakfast, I would get your butt in line at the Drag Illustrated booth.
And if you present it to Wes,
run out of these things.
If you present it to Wes at the party, he will go up and buy you a shot.
Oh boy, here we go. You're going to find a way for me to go broke one way or another.
If you present it and say that you watched the show, yes, you probably will get a shot.
If you watch the show, I will consider snagging you a shot or putting you on my tab. But I tell you what, huge event Thursday night. Don't miss it. Anybody who's anybody is going to be there, and it wouldn't be the same without you. We want you to be there. But seriously, JT, please throw the link in the comments again. Okay, pinned. Go by.
Throw it in again, Marco.
It's pinned.
Marco, Philem.
It's pinned at the top, my friends. Kevin Aldred asked so you can find sponsorship there. Well, I tell you what, JT has sold more ads in Drag Illustrated at DI After Hours than he does all year long on the phone. All year long. He does more damage at the PRI show at DI After Hours than he does all year long. So, Kevin, you're looking for a sponsor. That's a great place to start. We have not locked in our DJ yet, Sledgehammer Motorsports. We're working on it right now. I was kind of shooting for the moon on a couple of national touring acts that I'm not sure that we're going to get done.
So we're not going to get Lil John? He can't stick around for the
I was trying to get
He should, man. He should stick around.
Yeah, we will have at the bare minimum we'll have a big name regional DJ. We're hoping to lock up a national touring act hopefully by the end of the week. But seriously, DI After Hours Thursday night 9 p.m. Mike, what else do we have going on? Friday morning. What's the first event? The DI Pro Mod Summit. This is something no one even knows about right now.
Right.
Shout out to
Details
our friend John Waldy, everybody's best friend when it comes to fast door slammer drag racing. Teamed with us to put together basically an open forum for the future of Pro Mod drag racing, get people that are invested in that particular eliminator together to share ideas, express concerns, and hopefully do something positive for the sport of drag racing. Tell us the DI Pro Mod Summit. What time is that, Mike?
11 a.m. 11 a.m. to 12. Details to come as far as the room number and everything. It's really more of a just a forum that we're going to mediate between the NHRA and the people that run that series and the drivers, team owners, sponsors.
And various sanctions and series. I anticipate representatives from PDRA, Northeast Outlaw Pro Mods, NMCA, NHRA, all the various
We've seen some changes
across the country.
As far as schedule, rules. I think it's sort of just to get everyone in person, face to face, and have some discussions surrounding that.
I'm genuinely looking forward to it.
Then we go right into, I guess, lunch, probably, which is JT's main thing. Then after lunch, we go to
dude. Happy hour is my main thing. Give me a break. Jeez, lunch. I don't even eat lunch. You're right. I'm like, my stomach's upset from the night before.
We go from
slide into the night. You know,
your days and nights never end. They just all run together.
They do. I get me a mushroom burger at about 4 a.m. and good to go.
So then we've got at 1:30 the 30 under 30 press conference. What's the room number on that? Do we know that, or is it
the media center?
It's over by the media center.
Yeah, it's over beside the media center. Everyone is welcome. We expect to have almost all of our 30 under 30 members that can make it.
We're gonna have almost all of them.
Yeah, to
it's like in that mid hall underneath the stairs,
beside, kind of across from the escalator.
Yep.
That goes.
That's
going to
be
the hotel.
If you've never been to that event, it's a really cool deal just to see
Yep.
these young people fired up, to see
We
these
present
young
them
folks.
with jackets. We have some
Yes.
words from some of our supporters. Wes gives a real rousing speech, which you guys kind of get that on here every week. So maybe you don't need that part, but
It's true.
it's a real good deal. Then I think the PDRA is actually going to have a press conference right after that,
Right
which
after
we
that,
plan
yeah.
on sticking around and seeing what they have to say. So again, if you're into Fast Door Slammer racing, stick around for that. Then what, Wes?
3
Then we
p.m.
go
3 p.m. Friday afternoon. JT, myself, Mike Carpenter, we will all be at the Red Line Oils booth, signing autographs, kissing babies, taking photos, whatever you want to do. JT will probably arm wrestle some folks or take shots with people. That has happened in the past. We'll have the official date and time for when we will be swinging over by Stroud Safety's booth. We intend to go over and hang out with Tommy
probably
Cunningham.
right after that, right?
Probably right after that, I think,
Yeah.
is the plan. 3:30ish, 4 o'clock to burn over to Stroud and kind of end our Friday with our buddies at Stroud Safety, Tommy, Anita, the whole gang over there. I believe they're going to have Ryan Martin in the booth. He's going to have his street race car in the booth, the red Fireball Camaro. I'm looking forward to that. Going to be a very exciting deal. And I'm sure I'm anxious to see just the fanfare that the Street Outlaws generate again, if they're able to come. I know there was some genuine concern across the industry that many of them weren't going to be able to come because of filming responsibilities, but it does sound like there's going to be an opportunity for most of the stars and cars of No Prep Kings and Street Outlaws to be on the property in Indy. It's going to be good, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, absolutely. So,
all right, guys. Well, hey, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, seriously, on behalf of myself, Mike, JT, the whole team at Drag Illustrated, please know that what we're thankful for, what we're perhaps most thankful for, is all of you that have joined us, been a part of this process, man. I'm so proud of the platform we've generated here. We've created for the Victor Alvarez's of the world, for the John Sears of the world, for all these people that are doing great things for the sport of drag racing. I love to have the opportunity to bring them on here, shoot the breeze. It's a great time, but also discuss topics that are near and dear to the heart of racers, explore these subjects, talk about things that matter to all of you, the people that keep our sport going. We believe we are doing the Lord's work here. We are doing what's important to keep the sport of drag racing growing, headed in the right direction. Serious, man. The quickest way to get into heaven, buy a tech card. On that note, guys, love you all. Appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving. Be safe if you're traveling. Take care. Pay attention. Take that phone call later. Shoot that text back later. And we look forward to seeing you all next Monday night on the Drag Illustrated Ride Along. Mike's working on some special guests, which could be really exciting for us. I want to go ahead and say that we're going to have Big Country, Corey Swanstrom, join us next Monday night. That should be pretty raucous. Looking forward to it. And stay safe. Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Be safe traveling.
Oh, boy.